That is what I'm talking about. What is going on, everybody? Welcome, Goglings, Gogorifics, and Gog Peoples, to episode 372 of Pen and Pixels. It is Ghosts of Saltmarsh as we move into a new phase of the campaign called Salvage Operation. We'll talk more about that in a little bit. Before I get there, just a couple of reminders about ways to support us here on GogCom's channel. If you haven't done so already, please make sure, please make sure not to burp on mic. Secondly, please make sure to follow the channel. Please make sure as well to subscribe to us here on GogCom. We have those, of course, custom sub badges, DRM free, etc., and emotes to use here, there, and everywhere across Twitch. So please do that. That does support the streamers in the channel as well. And please click through to our individual channels because we have our own individual subsystems and Patreons and all that kind of good stuff. We love to have you folks, whether we're streaming on our channel or here on the GogCom's Twitch channel. Before we go any further about that, also quick note about schedule. Next week I am going to be on, but I'm going to be on earlier than normal. I will be on from 12 to 3 p.m. Next week on Tuesday, and that's going to be in fact, I'm putting a note quickly to make sure that I write that down on the GOG schedule. And we're doing that because I am going to be on Shire Adventures, which is my campaign that I run on my channel with the wonderful people at Free League. That is going to be on my channel from 4 to 7 p.m. Eastern to accommodate my players there who have to do this as a later thing. So what that means is that you folks and I will get together from 12 to 3 playing some Chained Echoes Eastern time, and then I'll be over on my channel from 4 to 7, so that'll be next Tuesday. So basically, whenever I'm doing Shire Adventures there, which usually, but not always, twice a month, then I'll be on GOG from 12 to 3 on Tuesdays. When I'm not doing that, I'll be on GOG here from 4:15 roughly, although we're getting started late today, to 7:15 p.m. Eastern. This has to do with two scheduling issues. Today we started a little late because of some player schedule conflicts, and also because I got over here after having to frantically try to finish a game on my own channel, which I couldn't quite finish, and I still had like 15-20 minutes. So we will see. About getting more of that stuff done. Yes, exactly. Muting your mic while you burp supports people on GOG.com. Listen, the most GOG you can get is something that sounds roughly like GOG or something. I don't know. I don't know where I'm going with that. Anyway, but with that said, I'm going to unmute myself and apologize for whoever I may have interrupted because I can't hear them, and then I'm going to unmute them. And last but certainly not least, I'm going to head over to reveal to all of you lovely people our crew. And as you can see, we have everyone here pretty much ready to go, except that Mike will be back in his place in just a moment. And you will notice that we have one really brand new, extraordinarily important, member of the stream. I think it's very important to note that. So just, take a look to the bottom right of the channel, and you will see someone that we're very honored to have. They have brought a squeaky hot dog, a squeaky banana, that are actually resting their chin near. They also have a bone. And they are comfortable on their pillow, so you can see all of that is right here. I'm going to wait and watch the viewer numbers soar as you contemplate that new member. But before we get there, I want to welcome in everybody and welcome, of course, the amazing Pyron Jade into the stream. Pyron, it's always a pleasure. Of course, whilst you may not be able to compete with that what we see at the bottom right, it does not mean, of course, that you're not a wonderful person in your own right. And if you were that creature that we are talking about in the bottom right, you'd be even better. I think we can all agree with that. Because dogs are just better than people, is what I'm saying. Generally, that's just a general statement that I'm making. I would say the same thing about myself if I had a dog. Anyway, how are you, Pyron? Pyron's look is getting worse and worse. Just like you're not making any sense. I'm just gonna go over to you and say, how are you, Pyron? How's life in the universe with you? And who are you playing today?
I'm a bird. I don't care.
Okay. Nothing against birds. I'm just saying.
Yeah, well, life is a bit tired. I didn't sleep that well last night. But apart from that, funny things are happening. I'm learning more and more about the English language and also telling other people about it. So yeah, and I'm playing a Kenku tonight. So that's why I'm a bird and I don't care. It was called Wave Crashing Against Rocks, or This Noise.
Yep.
That went pretty well tonight, I think.
Absolutely, yeah.
Yeah. And so Waves Crashing Against Rocks is a Kenku paladin who likes her freedom and dislikes it when people reduce her to somebody just repeating things because, well, she is just repeating things, but she's repeating them on her own terms, damn it. So, they're currently on a mission to retrieve a magic weapon from a lost ship. So she definitely sees a way there of maybe collecting more ships because the ship is ours. And so we are going to see about that.
I love it. Yes, I am excited. It's like, people who complain about certain people remixing or sampling other songs when they're just making it something better. When Vanilla Ice ripped off Queen's riff for Under Pressure, David Bowie's riff for Under Pressure, Vanilla Ice was just making it his own. And I think that's really Waves is the Vanilla Ice, I would say, of our of our team. It's like, what are you doing today? Always a pleasure to have Pyron with us. I'm glad that everything is working well on the soundboard as well. Moving right down the line, you can see someone else who, while awesome, is not as cool as a dog. That's nothing against Darksaber personally. I'm just making general statements. Again, I say it about myself as well. But no, how are you doing, Saber? How are you? Thank you again for all the help with Moobot and Dashboard as always. How's life in the universe with you? And who are you playing in our game today?
I'm great. Dogs are good, but how does a dog measure up to a sack of badgers?
Well, okay, that's true, but that's multiple badgers, so that's not really fair. That's like many badgers.
Well, they need the advantage because they are going up against a dog. Not literally in that horrible sense that some elements of the British aristocracy like to
Oh, God, I hadn't even thought about that. That's true.
Yeah, I realised as I was halfway through that what I was actually technically describing. No.
Watch the GOG forums. You have this person who... Yeah.
Moving swiftly on. Tonight I'm going to be stepping back in as a Morthriel Gorgonian Dwarven artillerist and tinkerer. He doesn't really do remixes, he's more of an original creative type.
This is true. And exactly. And every time we see something new, we're like, oh, cool, it does that. Very, very cool. Yes, the bag of badgers, the bagchers, if you will, that we have.
I have a bag of holding. I have the bag of, well, at some point I'm hoping to have the bag.
I was going to say it's on layaway. Let's be clear. This thing is not yours yet.
Possess it.
You don't possess
something being worked towards.
It's almost in your possession. I know you wish it to be very soon. Anyway.
I just need to find a few hundred gold pieces on this mysterious ghost ship holding a magical weapon of unknown power.
There you go. I love the image that we get to the end of this and you actually don't get the weapon, but mysteriously have a bag of badgers instead. And everyone's like, how did this happen? You're like, well, I wanted to
We've got a good news, bad news kind of situation, Council.
What are your thoughts on barter? Anyway, but it's always a pleasure, of course, to have Saber with us. Now, since Mike is not quite yet back, I am going to jump over to what clearly is our newest member, and that is, as you can see, now there is nothing more bloodthirsty than the creature you see at the bottom right. You can totally tell that it is a death creature. It is a creature of blood. I mean, I don't think there's any question about that. So yeah, do you want to introduce yourself, creature of blood, for us?
Well, that's why she's in the pen, obviously,
Yeah.
to protect all of the.
You
the
just
children in my
sacrificed a
village.
banana to her, actually, to
I
her
did.
hate.
Yeah. It was a sacrifice that only a true banana can do. The puppy on cam is River. She turned 20 weeks yesterday. She's just turned 5 months old, so she is still a baby. However, I'm Ananda. I'm River's mum, and obviously not as exciting.
You can
as
now
the
switch
puppy.
over to you. I don't think River's awesome, but I would like to see you as well.
Part of the reason that it took us a little while to go live is that I was going live with River's cam and I couldn't figure out how to change it. So I wasn't clicking into the link to go live so that everyone could explain to me, actually, no, you can change that whilst we're in the call. So every time I was trying to go live on the Zoom link.
I'm a dog. I'm a dog.
River.
I'm a dog. Why am I a dog?
She's just trying to hog all the limelight.
Yeah, seriously.
However, yes, I'm Ananda. Hello. I am today playing Brian the Bloodthirsty, who's a water genasi fighter pirate. Very she's focused on her crew. There's nothing more important to her than her crew, regardless of how they perceive themselves or what they do in the interim. And yeah, we're off to find a ship, the Emperor of the Waves, that sunk apparently, but now is not sunk, and it has a magical weapon. And I also want to see what Morthwell is going to do with his bag of badgers. So
I mean,
I'm hoping that we find enough gold on the ship to make that dream come true.
Yeah, I mean, we definitely need the bag of badgers, I think. I'm excited.
Perhaps
for
some
that.
sort of juggling routine.
Right, the whole thing just goes way off the rails. Like, how was your Ghost of Saltmarsh campaign? I'm like, it was all fine, and then everyone joined the circus, and it just really kind of went in a different direction. But it is a great pleasure to have Ananda with us, and Ananda's dog, River. And as soon as Mike gets back, Mike can introduce himself. In the meantime, I'm going to go swiftly on, as Saber was suggesting, to talk a little bit about what happened in our last session. And to do that, I will jump over to this map to reveal to you Saltmarsh itself. In our last session, chat, the party returned after its triumphant success in allying with the lizard folk against the threat of the Sahuagin. And there have been some aspects of this over the course of this campaign. We've gradually, besides the political situation between the loyalists and the traditionalists in town and all that stuff going on, we've also seen some larger figure in the background that seems to have been causing some issues, whether it comes from Sanballat and a wizard who somehow is working for smugglers and all this stuff, to other things relating to a larger threat that faces Saltmarsh. We've been through all of that, and it has become clear that at least part of this threat is posed by the Sahuagin. Now, what is not clear is why the Sahuagin, which are sort of raiders and most of the good peoples of the coast or in the oceans nearby in the Azure Sea, etc., most of those folks are not actually they don't like the Sahuagin, and generally the Sahuagin are raiders that kind of harass people and cause some problems for a couple of coastal houses or whatever, but they don't ally together because they're too busy squabbling amongst each other. But something has unified them, and so the lizard folk has gathered an army together, is gathering an alliance together under their somewhat visionary leader, their queen and the shaman. And the party managed, thanks to the defeat of a massive crocodile and other heroic deeds, managed to get on board with the lizard folk alliance. Then they had to sell it to Saltmarsh, and that was what we did in a lot of our last session, was them trying to sell it to the council. I will talk more about that council, but first I'm going to ask Mike. I'm going to say hi to Mike, and I'm going to ask Mike to introduce himself. How are you, Mike? How's life in the universe with you? And who are you playing in this aforementioned campaign?
Hello, I'm good, thank you. Yeah, apologies for being a little bit late. Very, very late start. Had to run across a bridge and then unlock a door and other adventure-related point-and-click adventure game sounding things. It all sounds very dramatic, but it's not really. It's just me running late. Yeah, universe life and everything is pretty decent right now. Today I'm going to be playing as Silvo, our half-elven aberrant mind sorcerer, who has unlocked some features of his kind of background and characteristics, which hopefully he'll get chance on the journey, on our next journey, to divulge to the rest of the party. But yeah, some interesting goings on with Silvo right now, so I'm looking forward to seeing how that all unfolds.
As am I. And yes, I should mention to chat that our party is now level 4. They have, in fact, did we talk about what you folks got at level 4? Or did we not talk about that yet? We did talk about it, right? I think we did.
Yeah.
So level 4, and the only sort of negative we have at the moment is that Brian's still dealing with a single level of exhaustion, not 2, but a single. So, but I believe we said that you would have until the next day, I think is what I said. I don't remember actually whether we said you were going to be starting. No, actually, I take that back, because you had already rested once to get rid of 1 level. So actually, I take that back, because you had 2. Brian had moved up to 2 levels of exhaustion. So is now to 1. Otherwise, though, everyone is at full hit points. So, as I was mentioning on this map previously, when they met with the council, they discovered that one of the members of the council has been taken away under suspicion of being behind this smuggling operation. Now, this is curious because it was not 100% clear that the person in question was behind the smuggling operation. But in the meantime, it has meant that there is a power imbalance where the traditionalists, I believe it is, are balancing, let's say, the other factions that exist within the town. But fortunately, the party managed through good persuasive technique and other such things to get to the point where they were able to convince the council enough to let them, to sort of take on board this idea of the alliance. The council didn't agree to it yet, but they at least agreed that they would think about it. And while the party walked out of the council, grumbling to each other about councils, because councils, I think we can always agree, always suck in all video games and tabletop games, and they never take threats seriously. But while the party left, they were followed by Anders himself, who told them that there was a way that they might be able to break the logjam. And that meant finding something on board this ship called the Emperor of the Waves, as previously mentioned by Brian. This ship was alleged to have sunk, but has been seen again, according to several people. And many of these people have suggested that it is a ghost ship. Quite possibly, it is yet another example of superstition overriding reality. We found that with the haunted house and the so forth, which turned out to just be a couple of magic spells and an overactive wizard. But it could be there might be some undead associated with this, or some death ghost thing going on with the ship. We don't know. But one thing that was very important about this is that there is a weapon in a lockbox on the Emperor of the Waves that when the ship went down, supposedly that weapon and lockbox were lost. Now that it appears that the ship has not been lost, if the party can retrieve that weapon and can bring it back to Anders, that should give him enough authority to sway the members of the council, even with their current political imbalance, to actually get on board with supporting this alliance. And the party doesn't have a lot of time to lose on this, because this alliance is either going to succeed or fail relatively soon in the game because of the potential threat of invasion by the Sahugans. So the party has got a lot on its mind. There also were references to the possibility of getting enough gold on this ship to maybe buy a bag of badgers. Whether that happens or not, one cannot say. At the end of our little shopping trip, the party did that. And so as I hand things back over to the party, they had just left that little bag of badgers encounter, and I believe what they had told me was that they were going to be heading off next to actually go on the ship. But if the party has got other thoughts or things that I'm not remembering, then they can feel free to tell me that. As I fire up my music here. Hold on a second. Yes, I think we should be able to hear that now.
When did we last rest? Sorry, Pyron has a hand up. You take.
Oh yeah, go ahead, Pyron.
Yeah, similar. I think we wanted to take a good rest before we went on another ship.
Okay,
And
so maybe
also-
that's why I was thinking about the level of exhaustion. Maybe the idea was there was going to be a rest, and that would cover that. Okay, yes.
And also Waves would like to go to a proper bathhouse or something like that, where you can get like a good warm bath and like really scrub down. And all of this because we like walked through a swamp and were in the water and all of this. So I would really, really like a good bath.
Alrighty, well, let me take a quick look about that bath as I'm going to look at this. Yeah, what reavers do you speak of? It's always the groundskeeper in a mask. It's true or no? It's true. Okay, let me double check this quickly and see what we've got about this bathhouse thing. Let's see if I can provide. I was completely ready, chat, for the prospect of a bathhouse. That was totally on my bingo card of what was going to be requested, so we're all good to go. So let's see. Not that.
I'd written down at the beginning of last session, before we went to the council, that I had recovered to 1 level of exhaustion.
Yes, I have that too.
So if we're going to have another long rest before we go on the ship, that should get rid of that as well.
One. Okay, yes, I think that's right. Yeah, I was just wondering about, and the rest I think had happened before you actually left to come back to the town. Yeah, because technically, you can only benefit from 1 long rest in a 24-hour period, but I think you had that long rest yesterday at the lizard folk lair before you actually came back to town. So you can leave in the morning to actually do that. So as far as the good bath that is concerned, probably the best place that you would have to go, I would think, would be, and by the way, the person that was taken off the council was Gellin Primewater. He's the one who's under suspicion at the moment for being associated with smuggling and the like. Probably the best bet would be one of the sort of larger inns/taverns. Although I am noticing that there is a Crabber's Cove, which, given our previous discussion, off-screen would be interesting. But no. So there is one of those that you could find. You have obviously the empty net, although it's important to recognize that the empty net is not super. I'm sorry, the snapping line. I beg your pardon. The snapping line. The snapping line does actually probably have a basic bath that you could get if you wanted to go there, Waves. If you wanted to go to the more fancy one, probably the best place to go in town is called the Wicker Goat. And I will show you where that is. The best public place anyway, right there where I'm pinging. That is the Wicker Goat.
What do you mean by the best public place? Is there another option that is not public?
Well, the best public tavern. So, in other words, there are an inn. So there are private houses that obviously would be better than this. But as far as like a place you can be like, hey, I need a bath, I need a room, that would be the place to go. There is, however, a problem, and it's one which probably Morthwill could tell you about, because the Wicker Goat is owned by a guy named Lankus Kurid, who is a retired officer of the Kaeland Army, and they cater specifically a little bit to the town guard, but in particular to the dwarven miners. And as you may remember, there's a little bit of an issue in this town with the dwarven miners who have found some success with the silver mines and some resentment among the traditionalist, racist, and the loyalists that may be associated with this. So that's something to think about. Morthwill, you know that the Wicker Goat is a place that, I mean, you get along fine with Lankus Kurid and so on, but you know that there have been, the Wicker Goat is a bit of a flashpoint for especially the traditionalists who feel like there's too much catering to dwarves going on already. So that said, that is the nicest place in town for a bath to be had. Or you can basically, kind of slum it with the with the snapping line. So it will be up to you.
Well, Saber is kind of our local guide. Morthwill is kind of our local guide. So yeah, if after I have conveyed my wish for a hot bath to get clean and get like really scrubbed down, I will look at him for advice.
So yeah, pretty much both will be describing as has been described. We'd be throwing in about like, well, I mean, we may get a bit of grief for being, non-traditional, despite the dwarves being around a lot longer than the goddamn humans, but who's counting? Not the humans, they barely make it past 100 anyway. Anyway, I digress. Our nicest place for a bath would be there by a long shot.
Okay. Then I'll try to convince the group to all go there and have a good bath. So I look at everybody and make like itching movements.
I have this image of you just saying your name over and over again, so they just hear water splashing and they get the idea. Just like, psh, psh, like what?
I'll be right back. I've got to go to the bathroom.
I do want to go and enjoy the bathing facilities. I'm a little grubby myself. However, I would like to go to the temple briefly and have a chat with Crag, the gravedigger, who is somewhat of a historian here, just to see if he knows anything about the Emperor of the Waves that I haven't heard on the seas.
Also, we're going to a ghost ship, aren't we? Come on, notes. I know I made a note of this. Someone was looking for sailor remains.
It was the priest.
Ah, there we go.
See, so
We were supposed to bring bones
We have a side
back.
quest on our Trello
Yes.
board. It's called The Bones of Dead Sailors.
that's right. So you've got
And I have a bag of holding. This is shaping up nicely.
suddenly a
don't
bag of
think you-
skeletons. It's a whole,
What happens if we put the bones into the badgers? That's not good.
Well, you have
Be
some
able to
happy
carry
badgers.
lots of them.
Yeah.
Bones in with the badges.
I haven't experimented too much with badges.
I nod sagely.
So yes, so you could do that. So quick note. So Craig, might be a place to do both of those things. And I don't necessarily think we need to RP out the Crag thing. You could, however, probably want to RP out a little bit of the Wicker Goat theoretically. But so order of operations, I don't know whether you want to do Crag first and get that out of the way, take the bath and rest at the Wicker Goat, and then go to the ghost ship. That's up to you. That would be one way to manage it if you wanted to kill two birds with one stone, as they say.
Sounds good to me.
Waves is turning towards the bath. Wicker goat thing.
Okay.
We're still trying to make heads or tails of what Waves is actually referring to.
Are we there yet?
He turns to more.
I do. I need
don't
a long rest before we start out in the morning. So whichever way we do it.
Yeah.
I don't really have a preference.
There's a reluctant acceptance to whatever's gonna go down with the party. Silvo's with the party at the moment.
Okay, I go over to Brian, elbow her slightly in the ribs, point stealthily, as stealthy as I am, towards Silvo, and show Brian like a scrubbing motion.
At which point I kind of reluctantly nod and like check my non-existent watch, and then like just casually stroll over to Silvo and like just put
I go,
an arm around
I
his
go on the
shoulder.
other side of Silvo and put my arm around him.
And then just gently, like, just chatting about, so what we'll do is we'll go and have a chat with Crag in a bit.
Why do I have a feeling I'm about to be escorted out of a pub?
I can't hear you very well, Mike.
Sorry, why do I feel like I'm about to be escorted out of a pub?
No, you're about to be escorted into a building rather than out of one.
Oh, well, that makes it first.
So do I understand
yeah.
that you're going to the Wicker Goat then as your approach? Okay.
I believe so, yes.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, so as the party moves, and you can feel free to move your figures over to that place that I have previously pinged, which is, to be clear, right here. As you are moving your figures over that way. So the Wicker Goat is aptly named, for it has in the front of it not a sign, but an actual standing statue wouldn't be the right term, but I guess figure of a goat, clearly made out of wicker branches, that has perhaps seen somewhat better days, although this whole place, honestly, feels a little bit more like an older place that has been maintained pretty well And to the extent that it still feels old, it's like they did that on purpose. It's like a really well-maintained antique shop or something, where they did it on, to try to make you be like, oh, apparently this is a historical place type of thing. And so it's got none of the sort of warmth or anything like that of the snapping line, but it is very sort of, looks kind of almost like stately. The doors look to be made of old, some kind of old wood, old oak perhaps, and has clearly been, refinished several times, but not to make it into anything modern, like definitely not modern. And as you come up and into the door, once you walk inside, you can hear a couple of things. First of all, I'm not going to put on the tavern music because it doesn't feel like that. It's very much more sort of stately. And there is one sort of ticking from a very large grandfather clock on one side of the room as you enter. The place smells slightly musty, and you can see that there are a number of paintings which are sort of placed up and around the walls. And the paintings all seem to be of various military figures, like military generals or heroes, all wearing like armor and swords. And as you enter, at first it feels like you wonder if there's nobody there, and then you hear, yes, what may I do to help you? And you can see a person stand up from behind what might be seen as the front counter, but the guy is dressed up. If this is an innkeeper, it's like an innkeeper from several centuries ago. Like he's dressed up with like full kind of, almost like not wearing armor, but full like dress uniform. It's like you just walked into like a reunion of the 42nd, like it's that kind of thing. And he kind of walks over rather stiffly, pepper gray beard, silvery hair. And he says, what may I do for you?
I turn to Morthwell. Are we in the right place?
Aye, we're in the right place. I turn to Waves. This is it.
I look around, and everything looks clean and nice, and I nod emphatically. And so I say to the proprietor,
and the proprietor sort of nods and says, yes, hello.
My name is...
So he listens to all of that, and his eyes kind of slip over to the rest of you, and he says, charmed. I am Lankus Kurid. I am the proprietor of this establishment. Have you made a reservation for a room, or perhaps I could guide you somewhere if needed?
We are looking for rooms for this evening, but as a party, we've been on quite a voyage, and we'd like to know if you have bathing facilities available for us.
And he sort of looks at you for a moment and kind of, how would I describe this? I'm going to say something, but I want to immediately soften it. It's sort of like he's sizing you up, but I do not want to say by that he's sort of like, I don't know if these people, it's just more like he's kind of getting a feel for who you are. And he says, yes, well, we don't have public bathing facilities exactly, but it is fair to say that we do have rather extensive bathing facilities associated with those who do have rooms with us. Unfortunately, it's been rather busy here, and I have at the moment only one room. I'm afraid it's not as well provided for as we would prefer, but there are 4 beds, perhaps a little cozy, but otherwise, and it would give you full access, of course, to our bathing facilities, which I would say are the best in Saltmarsh. We attempt to make sure that people are clean before they challenge the dirtiness of the outside air.
Morthwell's wandered over to examine the grandfather clock while they're having their discussion.
Make a as you get over there, make a investigation for me, please. No, perception. Sorry, Morthwell.
Okay.
He's wondering if you're going to trash the hotel room.
Investigation would have been nicer. 7. This definitely ticks.
Yes, you see it ticking and talking. There's definitely both of those things happening. at the same time, or one right after the other. Yeah, I mean, the one thing you can say for sure is that the clock does seem quite old. And there's something odd about it that you can't quite put your finger on, Morthwill. It's, I mean, it's just a big grandfather clock, but there's something else that is sort of, it doesn't feel quite the way you would expect a clock to normally be or operate, for whatever that's worth. But other than that, it's a clock. So for the rest of you, Waves and Silvo and Brine, what do you say as Morthwill's looking at the clock?
I look at the proprietor and I make the sound of coins clinking in a bag and look at him questioning.
And he nods and he says, yes. Well, under normal circumstances, of course, we would have a extra fee associated with a late arrival reservation. But in this case, I believe that fee can be waived since we have recently had a cancellation. And when he says cancellation, it sounds like he's just said we've recently had a personal betrayal. Like apparently you don't cancel at the Wicker Goat. And so like the fact that someone did that is just... So he's like, we've had a cancellation, so we do have this room available. Therefore, I should be able to allow you to spend time in this room overnight. And again, full access to bathing facilities for 6 gold pieces for the room. Now, to be clear, the most expensive room that any of you have ever heard of, and certainly more, I think, than any of you have ever stayed in, is 10 gold. Like, at the snapping line, you would get a laugh if you said to someone it was a gold. Usually it's like 7 or 8 silver to stay at the snapping line. So this is a lot.
1.5 gold each.
No,
I'm just looking at Waves. I'm just
exactly.
I'm looking at the proprietor. Do I feel like he is trying to cheat me, or is this the regular
Insight
price?
check, please. Let's have an insight check. And find out.
Incoming. Click. I clicked on it and nothing happened. Wait, there must be the pop-up again. Where is it? I've got so many. I've got the correct. There it is. I want a normal roll. Yes, submit. 12.
You're not sure, Waves. You wonder if this isn't just sort of like, we have always charged 6 gold. Like, you wonder if it's sort of like that, like kind of the... You trying to haggle would be like telling a person that history doesn't matter, like who cares about priceless China? I'll just buy McDonald's or something. Like it's not so much that he's trying to get one over on you as if he's just like, we here at the Wicker Goat prefer that you pay 6 gold type of thing.
Okay, if I don't feel like he's trying to definitely like cheat me because I'm a tourist or something like that, I'll take out the 6 gold pieces and pay.
So he sort of looks and he nods and he says,
and I need to deduct them 1 moment.
Yep. And he says, excellent. And may I say you've made an excellent decision. There are some who would prefer to stay elsewhere in this town, but I am happy to tell you that we here near the outskirts of Saltmarsh, can provide you a better experience. And he turns, and as he turns, you hear the squeaking of his clearly well-oiled boot. And then walks over to the stairs leading to the 2nd floor, and he says, "This way, if you please. I will show you to your room, and then to the bathing facilities." So you folks can follow him if you wish. Morthwill, I don't know if you're still fascinated in that clock or if you're coming up with him.
No, the tick follows talk as you'd expect a well-made clock to do.
So if you all follow him upstairs, he shows you the room. Now,
1.5 gold each.
yeah, exactly, with him muttering. When you
Can
walk
I have a
into
look
this,
at the portraits downstairs before
You
we
can,
like,
Brian,
as
yes.
we're walking up, as I'm following him around, I'm just going to like do a lap of the room and have a look at the portraits just to see if I recognize any figures from history in there.
let me have you make a history check, please, for me.
I wasn't prompting a history check because
No,
I have
I
no
know.
bonuses in it, but
I was gearing up for a history check for you anyway on this one.
14.
Well, what you can say is you're pretty sure that you see a couple of people that are, one of them you're pretty sure was like a former dignitary, in the town. You've heard a couple of people sort of muttering about it in your wanderings around this town over the last couple of weeks. But beyond that, one of these people looks very, very much like Anders, although it clearly is not Anders, but it looks like an older version. You wonder if this maybe is Anders' father, or maybe grandfather or uncle or something. But definitely this looks like someone that, if you didn't know any better, it would be like Anders 25 years from now or something.
Okay.
And the other ones, just you don't recognize the others. They may be other military figures of significance, but you don't know them.
Okay.
So
I'm gonna carry on.
when the rest of you get up to the room, he says, he brings you all the way back to the hallways. Like, and again, I do apologize for the paucity of space in this room. And then he opens the door. Now, chat, I don't know if you've ever had the experience of walking up to a place and then opening it and, right? He opens up to this paucity of space room. This room is at least twice the size of any room that you've seen at the Snapping Line. And down both walls of it, there are evenly spaced beds with immaculate sheets, and the entire place looks like it has been made with gold, copper, and like every conceivable glass fitting you could imagine. There's an old chandelier that's hanging from it with little glass beads and the whole bit. Like it is like, and by the way, each bed is a 4-poster canopy bed. Each bed. It is one of the nicest rooms you've ever seen, and it's enormous, and it's old, or it certainly looks old. And he says, there are towels at the footlockers of each bed, and if you'd prefer to fetch some of them, I will bring you to our bathing facilities. And as he walks in, you can hear the slightest creak of the wood of the floor bending underneath him to accommodate his boot as he heads over. He walks in almost reverently, like a minister or a priest walking into the sanctuary of his church.
I look at the party with a very satisfied smirk on my face and say,
Oh, all right. 1.5 gold gets you way more than I thought it would.
You look over and you see Lankus actually made the da-da sound. No, I'm just kidding. He didn't do that. Okay. So anyway, yes, you have a chance if you wish. Now, again, I'm not trying to like rush you through this. You folks can do whatever you like, but he's definitely ready to take you to the bathing facilities if you wish to go there.
I grab towels and like stand to attention to be taken to the bathing facilities. Definitely.
Go ahead, Brian.
I am not used to luxury. We didn't have bed sheets like this or beds like this on the pirate ship. So before I go and pick up my towel, I'm going to go and take a running jump. Like I'm still fully clothed, got my boots on. I'm going to go and take a running jump and then turn and starfish on the bed and kind of just like.
So when you do this, 2 points. First of all, when you starfish in the bed, you go, and the bed just. Like it is the softest mattress, and the blankets go over like this and then cover you, drifting down on top of you. The second thing is that you see Lankus go, quite, and like turn around and like sort of like looking. And of course, this is also, of course, you can see the dirt of the boots of Brian's boots sort of, kicking up or whatever. And he's just kind of like, well, and kind of turns around. It is the softest bed of human recorded history of creatures in time, Brian. Like it, words fail.
We're gonna sleep well tonight. Right, I'm gonna get up, get my towel, and then follow on.
You do so, leaving a fading streak of dirt as you get off these gorgeous sheets, which apparently Lankus has the good grace not to mention much. He's gonna have that bed burned. Yeah, exactly, Renaud.
Well, we know which one's Brian's bed. It's the one that's covered in swamp water and crocodile guts.
Yep, exactly. That's been claimed now.
She's called dibs.
That's been claimed.
As much as it pains me to admit, that looked like the nicest bed in the room.
Yeah, it did. It did. At one point, I'm sure it was.
It looks like a snow angel now.
It looks like an angel of
looks like
some
a blood
sort,
angel,
I
not a
wouldn't
snow
call it.
angel.
A blood angel. All right, so the four of you leave, and he brings you down the hallway, and then he brings you up one more small flight of stairs. And it comes to this door, and it's not a very big door, and you're kind of like, okay. And then he says, now, if you would, please make sure to take a moment to adjust. And he opens the door, and a cloud of steam comes out of the door. And inside, as your eyes sort of adjust, you can see that it is not inside at all. This is a platform that has been elevated above the ground. And in the platform, there are 6 separate large wooden tubs with steaming water coming out of each of them. And next to them are what you think might be marble stairs going up to the top of these wooden tubs. And behind, you can see there is a pretty view of the, if you look on your map, the forest, like the little small forested area below you. And there are birds that are flittering around, and sort of twittering and so on as you're in this place. And he says, you should be on your own here without any concerns. Also, thank you to Deathblow 1971 for the raid. And then he waits till Deathblow leaves. Good to see you, Deathblow. Thank you for the raid. And then he says, you will not be disturbed here, at least not until later. I should say that dinner will be in approximately 1 hour. And if you come down to the central living area, I will be happy to show you to your tables at that time. Have a pleasant bath. And if there's anything I can help you with, please don't hesitate to let me know. On the boot, and then out, and you're looking at these steaming tubs.
I look at it. I look happily at them.
Beautiful.
And then I will search for some soap and something to scrub, and will choose a tub.
There is a bar of soap by every tub. And
Yes.
so you can do that. And if you're gonna get into the water, are you in first, or is Brian doing another snow angel backwards into the tub?
She's a Genasi. If she wants to get in the water first, I don't think I'm going to be as quick.
I'm happy to stand back and let Waves choose her tub. I'm kind of just having a look around, like just putting a finger in, test the water temperature.
Quite hot
Nope.
in a steamy kind of way. And
Nope.
in other
I
words-
strip down and get into it.
Yeah, Silver's half naked at this point, so
Okay. Morthwheel, same.
He's clambering up.
Okay. When you get in, you have 2 reactions, I would say. First of all, it is deliciously hot. It's that kind of hot where you get in, you're like, oh, that's too hot for about a second. Then you're like, no, actually, that's going to be tremendous. And you can see that there are several stones on the floor of the tub spaced around the walls that seem to be glowing. In fact, Morthwheel, you would guess that these might be ever hot stones that are basically enchanted to create this effect. And the other thing is that the water has some salt content to it, so that your body is buoyed up by the water somewhat. You are held aloft, as it were, by the power of this salt water as you are able to sink back into it. It is like climbing into a perfect hot tub. It is where hot tubs would go to a hot tub. Like, this is a hot tub's hot tub, okay? That's what I'm saying.
So what
Awesome.
you're saying is we got our money's worth, like 100% got our money.
I
Well,
mean-
my money's worth.
Yeah, well, yeah.
I know what you're talking about. I was looking at a grandfather clock.
We got your money's worth, absolutely.
I'm gonna
yeah.
just like slide into the water and just like lie on my back as my hair like spreads out in the water and say, thank you, Waves.
Yep. This is about as good as it gets. A couple times a bird actually lands on the edge of the hot tub, and each of your hot tubs and like seems to be twittering out a song. At first you're not sure what's going on, and then it's just like, it's like you had a bard there or something. Like, you swear to God it's actually making music. I mean, it's pretty spectacular. It's about as good as it gets. Yeah, it's nice.
Silver gets undressed and just falls backwards into the pool, into the hot tub.
A steam rushing hiss of steam.
Morthwheel's lying back, and if you happen to look over, it just looks like You know, like how algae is in the water? That, but ginger beard hair with a nose poking up.
I did not know where you were going with the algae part. And I'm like, oh, okay.
Mate, I shared those photos with you in confidence. I don't know. We're not supposed to talk about my OnlyFans on here.
Listen, what happens in Hottubia stays in Hottubia. Anyway, it is spectacular. All jokes aside, now technically this happens at the end of a long rest, but Brian, I'm just going to tell you that you will not have exhaustion after this. Like, it is pretty wild. So yes, this gives you an opportunity. Again, you already talked with each other, so you don't need to. It's up to you how much you want to role play out. Whatever. I'm happy to fast forward as you like.
This is
but it's pretty wild.
luxurious. You see the silver.
We would need a bath for another few months.
I cannot remember the last time I bathed like this. It must have been when I was still in Seaton, which was over a year ago. I normally just take myself down to the shoreline and just do my best.
Pretty sure
Brian
I've
keeps
never actually
like
come
diving
over
under
here.
the water, blowing bubbles.
Mm-hmm.
And she's blowing bubbles from her mouth, by the way.
Yes, very important to specify.
Just to clarify.
Yes.
I'm just happy to see bubbles that don't have a lot of fangs on the other side of them for once.
Dominus points out the worst part is getting back into your gear after a bath like that. Well, listen, no. If you get out of a great hot tub soak, let me tell you, for a while, you put on the you feel it's the best. It's about 3 hours later when you might lose it.
It sticks with you.
It stays with you for a while.
Absolutely,
Yeah.
it
You
sticks
realise we're
with
going to have to burn our clothes and buy new ones when we're done.
you. Oh, I'll do it. Oh.
Waves just reaches outside the bathtub and just puts her clothes in.
Yeah, I was going to say, my clothes coming in the bath with me. I'm scrubbing my boots in there.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm going to give myself at least another 10 minutes before I do that.
There's a knock.
Weren't there 7 bathtubs?
There were 6.
6.
6
We're
bathtubs.
people. I'm gonna use another.
Just use
So,
one.
yeah.
Just use one as a giant wash basin.
So there's a knock on the door. Hi, Kilgore. There's a knock on the door, and you hear, "Excuse me, if everyone is in their tub, I was hoping I could come in for just a moment. Is that all right? Is everyone all right? I don't want to come in if anyone is exposed unnecessarily." So you kind of hear that. You all are in your tub, so it's up to you. Is that?
Silver hasn't got a lot of shame. Silver is stark naked, floating on top of the stove.
Okay. So he just sort of ducks his head in, and he doesn't really look.
Silver didn't understand the assignment. Everyone else is wearing bathing gear.
So he says,
I'm hiding under my beard hair.
That's right. So
it's plaited all the way down.
He just ducks his head in, and he just says, and he's like, my apologies. I did of course want to mention that our laundry service, I could take your dirty clothes. And he looks around. He says, "So, your clothes? Where are your?"
I point to the bathtub in question and not towards him, and give him a
point to
thumbs
mine,
up.
which is just at the foot of my tub because I had
Mine is just next to my tub.
I've got my boot in my hand and I'm scrubbing it with the soap.
Yes,
I cannot
will,
imagine what's coming off your boots right now.
When you're
going to be our only visit.
done, please let me know. I will make sure I attend to everything that needs to be cleaned. And he Homer Simpsons his way.
Is he not taking our clothes?
You get the impression that he may, but probably not from the ones that are in a hot tub.
I whistle at him and point at the hot tub again, because I'm unsure what's going on.
He says, "Well, we don't. When you are down at, and he says how to explain. You will be provided after bath clothes, and then we usually wash your traveling gear. So we'll just need to retrieve your clothing from the other hot tub where usually creatures are washed, generally, in our experience."
Oh, I assure you, there's plenty of creatures in those traveling clothes.
No, the badgers are in a different bag.
There's bits of creatures, there's remnants of creatures, there's probably living creatures in at least one of the pockets.
I shall leave you alone and make sure that dinner is prepared. And closes the door. And then you hear him kind of like walking way further swiftly on the other side of the door.
Okay, I'll start cleaning in the whole bird. I mean, you have seen birds in a bird bath, so it's going to be a bit hectic in my tub now.
Like a lot of the
And
shivering
I'm-
in the wings and stuff. You know.
And I'm actually trying to get the whole color out of my feathers.
Okay.
Well, all of the colour out of your feathers.
As much as I can.
Okay.
Like, so down to my natural black feathers with a few white spots where the acid hit me.
I see.
Yeah. I would say you're able
Brian
to do
is
that.
still covered in gore from cutting off the crocodile's head. So I'm currently trying to wash my hair and pick bits of crocodile out of it as we go. My boots are drying on the side of the tub now.
Morthul is gradually disappearing into a cloud of bubbles as he's playing with the soap.
And
Now you just see a
Silvo
nose and a
just-
bit of beard again.
You just see the starfished body of Silvo. Just the only thing he's wearing is the pendant just around his neck and just floating into circles in the hot tub, eyes closed, just in a dreamlike state.
Once I've got most of the color off, I'll also lean back in the tub and just have like the beak peeking out. And we'll make like, I don't know, happy dolphin sounds or something.
I couldn't agree more, Waves. I couldn't agree more.
I got soap in my eye.
You know, I could really get used to this adventure in malarkey. I mean, sure, we nearly get killed every few days, but if it ends in a week like this, then you know, I could be on board.
I mean, I'm not cutting off this scene until you all decide you're leaving. I like it. This is all gold to me. I mean, like, you. I think Chad had this moment where Chad's like, "That is amazing. Let us also imagine being in hot tubs." I happen to
lean
really
back
like hot
wherever
tubs.
you
In
are.
case
So
anyone
imagine
doesn't know
you're
right
here
now.
with us.
All right. Just imagine.
But this tub's mine. Get out.
I'm gonna bring the microphone real close. You're gonna imagine that you're floating in one of these hot tubs with us, and you're just spinning around, buoyanted up with the salt water. There's just steam in the rest of the room, and all you can smell this faint scent of warm wood from the wood paneling around the room, and you just hear the gentle plinking noise of little droplets of water from the steam, and very, very occasionally, Brine picking a bit of crocodile bone out of her hair.
Yep, that sounds about right.
Do we find something to wash the salt water up afterwards? You don't want salt on your skin.
There are plenty of yes. There is in fact a jug, really more than a jug, like a large, I don't know, I guess vase for want of a better term, but it's a big, one that has coal water in it. And I guess the idea is that when you get out, you're supposed to rinse yourself with this cold water. It occurs to you might have been supposed to rinse from the cold water before getting into the hot tub in the first place, but too late for that. And then you have the towels that you can do. You also now have a chance to actually notice as you're listening that there is something playing through. You hear some guitar music from somewhere mysterious, like playing. You don't really know why. Chat is going to be able to hear this, not the players, unless they listen to it through chat. But anyway, you hear this guitar playing, and it's it's pretty nice.
I think I'm imagining a bard in the other room.
Could be. So anyway, you're able to do that and rinse the salt off you if you wish. And then they have these incredibly fluffy towels that are also warm somehow. Like they're just very fluffy, warm towels that are exceedingly soft. And also warm, fluffy slippers. And there are multiple sized slippers that are there for different sorts of feet and sizes and types.
Before I try to dry, I will take my clothes out of the other tub and like wring them a little bit, put them there in the hope that the guy actually will do what he said. And then I'm gonna like shake out my now mostly black feathers, wrap into a towel, and walk back to the wonderful bedroom.
Okay.
A mountain of bubbles emerges from my hot tub.
Right, you just see a bubble man
I've grown an
emerge.
extra 2 Celtics in just bubbles.
Okay, I have a quick look at Celtic's bathtub to see if he's drowning or if he's fine.
Hard to tell, but there is a bubble creature that has emerged from it.
Okay.
Before Brian leaves the tub, I am also going to carefully wash all the blood and gore off my my double sabers,
Okay.
and then very carefully dry them because I don't want any rust. So I'm going to use a whole pristine towel just for my swords.
To be clear, you're washing these off in one of the hot tubs, right? I want to make sure that we get the image that you're putting the bloody sabers. Okay, good. In the hot tubs, chat, just so
in
we
the
get
hot
that
tub
clear.
with me.
With you,
So-
right? Of course, naturally.
Yeah.
No.
I'm not going to use a different hot
No,
tub. 'Cause
no, of course not. Yeah.
that would be extravagant.
That would
You're
be-
not a savage.
That would be,
I mean,
yeah,
come on.
exactly. That would be wrong. Just socially wrong. And then the towel, which you use to, okay. And then you head back to your room.
Silvo just sort of stands up and does this big stretch, and you can hear like several distinct pops from his spine and his shoulders and everything. Like he hasn't stood up this straight, and his muscles haven't been this relaxed in a long time.
Very nice. Assuming you all then head back to your rooms and get dressed. Indeed, they have given you, for want of a better term, what look like not sort of the after bath outfits actually look like dinner outfits, and they seem to have been they were not there when you first got to the bedroom. They seem to have been placed there since you arrived, and you get the impression these are sized for each of you. And Waves, even you have something which seems to fit a Kenku, like they somehow have this like kind of interesting like almost cloak of some kind, tunic cloak that seems to fit. And one has been placed on each of your beds. Brian, you note that the your outfit that's for you has been placed at the floor by the foot of your gore-covered snow angel, blood angel bed, pretty much. But yes.
I'm gonna put them on. I'm also gonna carefully put my my swords on the side. Do I have my scabbards with me? My sheaths? for
Sure. Sure.
Okay. So I'm gonna put this dinner outfit on, but I'm gonna put my swords on as well.
Okay. You're able to do that. And then Morthwill, are you and Silvo getting dressed in the? Well, I guess I should ask all three of the rest of you if you're all getting dressed in the appropriate outfits.
Sure, why not? This feels a little out of character for Silvo, but yeah, he'll get dressed for dinner.
Yeah, you have not been. In fact, if anything, this probably feels a little odd to you, Silvo. Like you haven't been dressed, this nicely for a long time.
Yeah, there's a distinct muttering of like, I don't know what was wrong with my normal clothes, but I'll wear what they ask me to
Well,
wear.
you mean beside all the crocodile blood? And
Well, yeah, I mean, yeah,
your
beside
blood
that.
and
Oh yeah, and beside,
assorted other bloods.
yeah. I mean, other than that, they were fine.
They kind of frown on that at this kind of place, I think.
Oh, I see.
Yeah, well, what's the thing they call it? A fork's pass.
A forks pass. I honestly, this just looked like the sort of place I would eye up to steal from. So I could tell it was a fancy establishment. That's all I could tell.
Well, we might like to come back here at some point, so maybe hold off until we do that thing that we were doing.
Yeah, no, not touching a thing, not touching anything shiny. My bill's been paid.
You all turn to note that what the heck was his name? I forget his name. Lankus. That Lankus has opened the door, and you have a moment of sort of a horrible thought as to how long has Lankus been standing there while you were talking about stealing or not stealing from this place. But if he did hear anything untoward, he doesn't say anything. He just says, dinner is served. If you would care to follow me, I would be happy to bring you to your table.
I do care to follow.
I very, very much care to follow. Yes.
I care to follow as well.
You are brought down the stairs and are brought from the stairs down to another separate room that is to the right side as you come down the stairs. When you enter, you notice that it is not a very large dining room, but currently has about maybe 6 or 7 tables that are decent size. You are all placed around one. And in fact, there's only one person who seems to be dining at the moment, and it is a dwarf of some kind. They are currently facing away from you and seem to be working on a soup course as they come in, so they don't turn in your direction. But he places you around the table, and he says, there will be multiple courses and, of course, options for you. Before I begin, is there any drinks that perhaps any of you would have? We have some delightful red wine, some white wine as well, the local Dwinian vintage that you might be interested in, or we should have as well some direct vodka and other mixed drinks.
Do you have any grog?
No.
Like
I
Brian,
would like
Sorry,
a vodka martini, please. Very dry with olives, a lot of olives, like at least 3 olives.
And he kind of nods slowly. He says, "Yes, I will do what I can."
I'll have one of those as well, please.
I'll have one of those too.
I'd like the red wine, please.
And he looks at you, Marthwell, and says, "Excellent!" Like with some sense of relief, like someone actually is getting red wine. So he leaves, and when he brings back the drinks, he brings back indeed, like a vodka with olives and the whole bit for every one of you. But he serves them not in a typical martini glass, but in a rather large wine glass. And you get the impression that typically, although they do mix drinks, they may do them a little bit differently here. You do notice that the spear for the olive is not in fact a spear, but a cunningly shaped miniature stiletto that is plunged through the heart of the olives.
Silver's just like, you are coming home with me.
It's either fancy or a threat.
He
Can I have a sniff of the drink just so I can see if it is? Because I've seen one before, because Waves has ordered this before. So can I see if it if matches my recollection of what it should smell like?
So I believe when you got this drink before, it was at the Snapping Line, and I think it's fair to say that that was an improvisation on Hannah's part. Like it was, kind of. This does not strike you as an improvisation, but it does feel to you very much like they have top-level stuff of vodka that gets used for other things, but they don't usually do it with olives or this kind of thing. So, like, everything is top shelf, but it all feels a little bit like, oh, I don't know, give them the gold-plated sword. You know what I mean? Like, to put it together. So it smells correct, but it has a certain refinement to it that the Snapping Line could not hope to match.
Okay.
So Morthwell is aping. He's never really drunk wine, but he's seen like fancy wine people at establishments in the
Right.
past. So he's kind of mimicking what he's seen with them. So he's swirling it around, and he takes a big sniff, a little too big because he inhales some of the wine.
Some of the
through
wine.
his nose. He's like, good nose.
And he sort of, and meanwhile,
Silver's just like, yeah, you have.
yes. And he's pretty much like Lankus is just sort of standing there impassively whilst you are all sort of trying. And of course, you Morthwell, it probably takes you a minute to realize that the way it typically works is once you've said, okay, this is appropriate, then he's supposed to leave. So while you're just sort of like, and then you sort of notice he's still standing there after a while, looking specifically at Morthwell.
I take a sip.
he
With
says-
my mouth this time.
And then he sort of waits for your reaction.
Okay. How does it taste?
It tastes, I mean, now you haven't drunk wine before, but it is smooth as silk. Like a fall evening with the scents of leaves flying by, and the slightest of chill breezes upon it is the bouquet that you would smell.
That tastes nice, that does.
And he
A
nods.
good
and
vintage.
he nods and he says, "Thank you, sir." And then turns and squeak, and then like walks away rather quickly. And
What this poor guy must think of us.
Silver raises his wine glass full of martini and he's just like, well, cheers everyone, up yours.
Waves lifts her glass, and you could see like a small sigh in her that she was hoping for one of those broad martini glasses with a broad opening, because it's not easy to drink from a wine glass with a beak. But she's
Is there a bowl we could pour it into? Like, can we empty out a bread bowl or something?
oh yeah, there is a bowl of bread. Yeah, you could do that.
I know that you're supposed to drink from glasses. I'm not that savage, so I'll try.
Open beak, chuck it in, Friendly Kitten says. While you're doing that toast, you hear from behind you, indeed, you should be toasting your success. I would be impressed if I were you. We're certainly impressed with you. It's a familiar voice.
I turn around,
It is
maybe slightly annoyed.
It is Manastrad Copperlocks, is the dwarf who is turned away from you. You may remember Manastrad is, first of all, one of the loyalists, and secondly, the person who's the head of the dwarven miners here.
Weren't they particularly standoffish with us in the council as well?
Yes, they were. And sort of nods at you, and she says, I didn't know that you actually would be willing to, well, frequent such an establishment. It's welcome to see you take out, look in a different perspective at different parts of this town, rather than just the snapping line and what that portion of Saltmarsh has to offer. She kind of raises her wine glass to you.
Morthwell does it hesitantly.
And
Silver just turns around with a mouthful of half a chewed bread roll, and he's just like, this is all Waves idea, amazing idea.
Waves lifts her wine glass in the nice suit that she has and says,
I make this look good.
You know how it is. You live in a place a couple of 100 years, and you always mean to check out the local amenities, but you never get round to it.
And she nods. She says, it's particularly strange, Morthwill, since this is one of the few places that does cater specifically to dwarves. It's one of the reasons I would have expected to see you here much earlier, although I don't know whether the tradesmen perhaps get, perhaps it's not the same crowd you might normally run with, perhaps.
Hey, well, you know how it is. You go to one of these places and people start talking that maybe your hands have gone soft and therefore your carving's not as good.
She says, yes, but maybe it's worth it to go soft like this. You work hard in the mines all day, but then you enjoy the softness of the rewards at night. And she kind of nods and she says, the truth is that all of you have been rather a mystery to all of us. And, well, when you made your presentation in the council, I was somewhat thrown off, perhaps might be the best way to put it. This business with this, well, alliance. Do you really think it's a wise idea to ally with the lizard folk, really? Under the circumstances? And she still seems to be looking at Morthwill mostly.
I think, given what we saw there, I do not believe for a moment it was a theatre staged for our benefit when they weren't even expecting a visit from us. They were almost as surprised to find us at the door as we were to find them answering the door, as it were. And given the nature and breadth of the people that were being, what's the word? Negotiated with, I guess you could call it, for the sake of this alliance, it's definitely a threat the lizard folk take seriously.
Mm-hmm. And she kind of nods thoughtfully and she says, well, that's as may be. I don't think necessarily that, given the way some in this town seem to operate, that they would be as inclined to support you. I had my own concerns, as you know, but was willing to hear more. You know, if the time arises and the opportunity does, I could see a scenario where certain things could be done to make me more, well, receptive, perhaps we might say, to your point of view. We do have several things that could be of value to us if you were to assist us with these, for one of your station minor tasks. And now her sort of gaze takes in all of you. You've all cleaned up nicely, but I know where your true reputation comes from. And I wonder if perhaps you might help us with a problem. If you were to do so, perhaps I could see my way clear to re-examining the evidence you provided us.
Walthwell turns to look at Silvo, because this is starting to sound more like his kind of language being used here.
Silver's just quaffing another bread roll. He's like, so we scratch your back and you scratch ours, basically. Let's not mince words here.
That's more or less right. That is the business for all of us here, especially when we are not part of the traditional sect. I'm sure you all know what I mean.
At this point, Silver puts his bread roll down and sort of leans back in his chair slightly, but in a way, he's leaning towards Manistrad. He's like, nothing too, no iffy wet work or anything like that. I assume.
Not in the least. In fact, it's something which has to do with the mines. And no, there's nothing untoward about it at all, I assure you. In fact, I'm only turning to people outside because, well, I don't necessarily trust everyone in this town or on the council. But I know that, in particular, Morthwheel is of respectable reputation, and you've all done some service for the council to this point. So, if you can individually help us, perhaps there could be some value out of that. But no, there's nothing involving, let's say, theft or the, taking of certain things that don't belong. Silvo, as you have the silver olive spear sword, slightly in your hand, making slow movements towards your pocket, theoretically.
Can I make a perception check to see if I believe her?
That would be an insight check, but yes.
An insight check, sorry. A check. Let's call it a check.
Yes, absolutely.
Yes, thank you. Bear with me 2 seconds while I find my character sheet.
While you're doing that, chat's a good time to say welcome to episode 372 of Pen and Pixels. I am here with the incredible D&D with GOG crew that is having a nice bath before they get ready to rest, talk to a guy at a temple about some stuff, and then head out to find a alleged ghost ship. So that's what we're doing there.
She's legit.
Yeah, absolutely. 100%.
I trust her with all of my belongings.
You actually get up and empty all your pockets onto her table, and you're like, please take all my stuff now.
I'm just like, I serve you fealty to Copperlogs.
Fortunately, it's not that bad. But yes, the critical fail on insight means that you're just like, maybe you're just still too busy thinking about the bath. I mean, I wouldn't blame you,
Being up all the free bread.
Yeah, the bread. It is very good bread, too.
It's
delicious
really
bread.
good bread.
Oh, yeah.
It's super good bread.
Warmed,
and, Copperlogs, as far as I know, has never stabbed me in the back, so therefore, goodie.
Yep.
Ryan's never really learnt proper table manners. So she's listening to this conversation and then fishes an olive out of her glass with her fingers and then throws it up in the air and catches it in her mouth and turns and
Dex
says...
check.
No, I think she can do this. I thought she was going to spear one of the rolls with her saber, and I was waiting for that, but...
No. I'm not that uncouth.
If I see Brian doing that, I'm going to give her a little applause, like...
It's very impressive.
I just turn to what's her name, Manistrad, and say, so what is it exactly that you want us to do?
So, as you all know, I am responsible for handling the dwarven miners who have been working with the silver mines to the north of town. We've been fortunate and somewhat successful in that effort, And, well, we've dug quite a bit, found many veins of silver, but, well, not to put too fine a point on it, we've had our operations slow down over the last few weeks. And it's because there have been some things seen coming into the mines. Specifically, and she kind of looks around, although there is no one else in the room besides all of you and her, and she says, specifically, creatures of beyond living means, by which I mean the undead. We have seen zombies and skeletons wandering about the mines. We've killed them, but they're coming from somewhere. We are certain that it cannot be from anywhere within the mines. We've mapped out every possible crack and crevice. But the reality is that eventually, no matter how many of them we kill, if more of them are going to come, my people will eventually grow beyond nervous and will refuse to work there. And if anyone finds out that we don't have full control over the mine, well, and she looks at you again, Morthwill, you can imagine what the reaction might be. There are already some who believe that we have weapons that don't belong to us, or have stashes of goods that we're keeping salted away for a rainy day. All a bunch of nonsense. But the truth is that it's there, it exists, and we could use someone to help us track down the problem and stop these skeletal and zombie creatures from coming into the mines. And you seem well suited for something like that.
Brian's going to toss another olive up in the air and catch it in her mouth and say, do you think it's sabotage? Someone's trying to take over the mines by releasing the undead?
And she looks at you and sort of her voice lowers and she says, I do think it's possible. There are some others on the council even that do not approve of what it is that I've done, or what it is the dwarves have done in becoming successful. Prime Water was one of our less favorable colleagues on the council. Of course, Prime Water isn't a concern. Such a unfortunate circumstance to be caught up in that scandal. I just can't imagine it. And you can see, you don't need an insight check to tell that she's really not, like, oh, this is the most amazing thing I've ever seen. Like, yeah, no, she clearly is not very unhappy about what happened to Prime Water. And she says, so it's possible. Out there, I have to present myself in a certain way. Rough and ready and firm and reject all attempts to, let's say, get closer. But realistically, I don't want to have to do that to anybody. If it were up to me, we would all get along. But my job is to make sure that we protect dwarven interests and protect mining interests. And there are some in this town who don't like that, and therefore don't like me. And it is true that she is acting somewhat differently, for sure, than she acted in the council. Although, again, Silvo thinks she's completely legit. No question about it, but, just saying.
Morthos remembered she was implying the lizard people are responsible for the happenings at the mine in the council.
Right.
So
but clearly
do you
what
genuinely believe this undead situation is being caused by the lizard folk?
I think it's quite possible, yes. I can't tell whether the lizard folk are doing it on their own or whether they're doing it with someone else. It could be that perhaps the traditionalists have decided to get rid of us by any means necessary, and they have figured out a way to, bribe the lizard folk into coming up with this ridiculous story about an invasion, and that's all a cover to try to get the dwarves out of the mine. Or it could be that it's one of our rivals that wants to get rid of us, or I don't know for sure, but I certainly would not be, I don't know that you can trust the lizard folk, and I know that I don't trust others in any case.
I understand your concerns.
Sorry, Morthwell, I didn't hear you.
I understand your concerns.
I think the lizard folk have got enough on their plate without having to worry about your mines. It's not in their interest. What I would like to know is, how much do you know about Ada Oland?
And she kind of pauses a little bit, and then she says, that might partially depend on who is asking me and for what reason.
Well, I think if someone was trying to take over your minds, it would probably be in the interest of somebody else on the council. And I think that with Gellin Grimewater not in the picture anymore, there seems to be one that stands out as a possibility just from an observational point of view. I mean, which is why I asked how much you know about her.
I know enough to know that she has a number of fishing boats, that she has mercantile interests, and that she is a traditionalist, and that she wears her racism like a cloak. Although she'd claim that she doesn't. She'd say that she was simply doing this for Saltmarsh, whatever that means. But the truth is, she probably does not wish me well. I am no fan of the traditionalists, and now that Primewater is off the council for the moment anyway, she probably feels threatened. I don't blame her. I don't like her. And if you're asking me if she could want something against us, possibly. You'll notice, of course, that she was the one who was most favorable to your lizard folk application. Perhaps that suggests that this is all part of her master plan. I am not accusing you, you understand. I think it's possible you've simply been used. I don't think you intended any harm by it. But the truth is that you definitely have a powerful voice in the eyes of the council now. And so, perhaps Ada saw an opportunity to get you on her side. So she kind of like takes another sip of her wine and says, "So, what do you think? You could do this on your own schedule? Seek out what might be causing the zombies and skeletons to invade, or at least to be entering that cave. Whether it is Ada, or whether it is the lizard folk involved in some way, or from some other source, we would welcome the opportunity to remove them as a problem. And if they were removed, well, we'd be inclined to support your application. Of course, if it turns out the lizard folk are the ones sending them to us in the first place, then my vote would not necessarily be to help the lizard folk. But if it is coming from another area, then you can be assured of my support, and the support of the dwarves. And there may be some monetary remuneration beyond whatever the council is going to give you."
Well, regardless of the why of it, undead turning up do represent a threat to innocent folk.
Of
One that I don't
course.
think can be turned a blind eye to.
Of course.
And if it is someone on the council perhaps manipulating us, it might be good to know that's ahead of us taking care of that other thing we were asked to look into.
Other thing? What other thing?
Oh, I
Oh, the heroes of
wanted
Saltmarsh
to
have
read up on
many
some
things.
history for the area. It's fine. It's
Quick table tour, that was me. I forgot who was present when we were tasked with the boat.
Is there another thing you've been asked to do at this time? Is there anything else?
As the heroes of Saltmarsh,
Well, there was
I'm
that
sure you
priest we
understand.
wanted to go talk to.
There's a lot of things. There's a lot of things on our plate at the moment.
And you can see that Manistrad is kind of looking back and forth from Morthwill to Silvo as the scramble continues, and is kind of like, and then says, well, you know your own business, but if someone is giving you tasks, I hope you will take into account the character of those you take the tasks from. I would say the same for me. I can tell you that I am trustworthy, and you can ask those in the town, and they will tell you the same thing. Even the ones who are opposed to me because I am a dwarf would not claim that I had treated them unfairly. And in fact, my own people, of course, would feel the same way. Make sure that whoever it is you're getting tasks from, that you're not doing it simply for the experience of it, but rather that you're doing it because it is the right thing to do. Just keep that in mind.
Silver's still quaffing another bread roll. There's like 4 he's had now. He's like, I'm doing it because it's the right thing to do, but also because it's going to be well paid.
This task, you mean, that you don't yet have?
No, most things.
We generally like to have as much information available to ourselves as possible to make the most informed decisions. Like if we investigate this undead situation and it does turn out the lizard men are involved in it, then we would have to act accordingly with that new information.
Well, there's one thing I can tell you for sure, which seems particularly curious. These zombies and skeletons, when we've killed them, well, or at least destroyed them, brought them back to their death, undeath, whatever it might be, there is something odd. In each case, their clothes are ratted and tattered and ragged clothes, are all damp, and indeed they smell of the sea. I don't know what to make of that, but in each case, these skeletons and zombies had clothes, and in each case the clothes are damp, and, for want of a better term, it seems like seawater is what it is that has covered them.
How far are the mines away from the sea?
Well, not that far, actually. The silver mines are probably, and actually, let me go look at the map to show you all about that. As I shut off the box stuff, since we've left that behind. Okay. The silver mines, let's see, are... Okay. Right. They are up this way, so it's a little farther out of town. But in fact, Brian, right... Sorry. One second. Right. Right up here-ish and here, the hills and seaside cliffs are most of where they've been doing it. If you went up further and followed that road all the way up, you would get, of course, to the haunted, the smuggle house, the haunted house that you went to towards the beginning of this campaign. But these things right here are basically along here is where the dwarves have been mining. So, in fact, the hills and seaside cliffs are right near the ocean.
Okay.
Have you heard of this happening in town before?
There have been raids before, of course, and certainly we've dealt with undead creatures in the past outside of town. But coming through to our mines, no, I can't say that we have. That's what makes me think that someone must have set us up, made it so that an attempt to discredit our operation. There are some, especially among the traditionalist factions, that would like to see nothing more than to see our mine interest shut down completely.
It makes more sense that it would be the traditionalists than the lizard folk, to my mind. I'm going to look at Morthwell when I say this.
Well, as much as I'd like to just believe that sight unseen, the truth of it is we won't know until we look.
I agree. And I think that we should go and do that before we go and for our history lesson.
Aye, yes.
And she nods and she says, well, I would be most appreciative. It would be, of course, of great value to be able to find out what might or might not be there. I, of course, would be able to give you notes that would allow you entry of some kind, or at the very least, entry outside of the mines. We aren't allowing people deep inside the mines, you understand. They're dangerous for all those who are not themselves experienced miners. But I could certainly give you letters of introduction, let us say, that might let you get into at least the shallow portions. And indeed, it is here that we've been seeing them, wandering in through the entrances and around the rooms, just at the first few opening caves, let us say, before going into the mine proper. And at this point, the innkeeper comes back, and Lankus is bearing something. You actually smell it before you see it. This wonderful smelling soup that he puts down. It is this delicious, you'll find out if it's delicious, I guess, but it certainly smells savory and well seasoned. And he says, "Please enjoy your soup and the first of multiple courses." And he kind of nods at you all.
Thank you. I'm going to tuck, because I can't find my napkin, I'm going to tuck the tablecloth into my collar.
Amazing.
And then with my soup spoon, again, no etiquette, I'm going to do the biggest slurp of my soup from my spoon and turn to him and go, yes, this is delicious. And then dig in.
And he nods and he says, "Yes, well, I shall allow you to enjoy it in peace." And he kind of steps back again and turns. And Manistred sort of nods and says, "Well, I am towards the end of my meal and you're towards the beginning of yours. So I will take this opportunity to take my leave and allow you to eat in peace. But here," and she fishes out of her, as she stands up, she has on her belt pouch, she has several scroll cases. And one of them, she takes the scroll case and she puts it on the table and she says, "In there you'll find your letter of introduction. And hopefully that letter of introduction will be of use to you as you arrive at the mine. Again, if you have other things to do first, I understand this is not something which needs to be addressed instantaneously, but obviously the sooner we get the mines back to full production, the better for all, including everyone in Saltmarsh who wants to see the town prosper and not simply fester."
Indeed.
And she kind of nods to all of you. She says, "Best of luck to you. Thanks for considering it, and I will make sure to consider your next application to the council with care, pending the results of your work." And sort of nods at you, and then bows slightly, and then departs.
I'm going to nod whilst slurping my soup again.
And politics ruins a perfectly good evening.
Okay, so I'm really confused. Are we doing the thing, or are we doing the zombie thing? It's just quaffing
What a load
bread
of
and
bullshit.
soup.
I didn't hear what Wave said.
What a load of bullshit.
You don't believe her?
I believe she believes what she's telling us.
It makes sense from what we know from Anders about the council, that with Gellin Grimewater out of the picture, the one remaining ally of Gellin would want as much power in the council as possible. And what better way to do that than to take the mine from Manistrad, that would completely weaken the position of the rest of the loyalists.
Yes, it's kind of strange that she just happened to, and I hold up the scroll case, she'd happen to have this here at this time.
Yeah. That does seem a little fishy. And I'm not talking about the soup.
But it could be she's hoping we find the evidence that backs up her beliefs.
And I hate to be the one to say this, but what if we do find evidence that backs up her belief that the lizard folk are involved?
If the lizard folk are involved, we'd have to tell people.
All right.
But
cool.
we'd have to have evidence, not just we think.
No. So it feels a little more pressing that there's undead coming out of a nearby mine and people are in danger than going and searching for a sunken bit of potential treasure.
Well, undead They tend not to go away, and they tend to get worse because they can make more of themselves.
Yeah.
Or something. I don't know the specifics of it, but people die, you get more undead. There's some sort of link there.
I think that sounds very legit. That sounds like you're on the right track there.
During this conversation, a salad has been brought out to you with some locally sourced greens and roughage from various places around. It is, of course, a seaweed salad.
Now, I don't normally eat stuff that my food eats, but this is really nice.
Do you know what? Yeah, this is the freshest salad I've ever picked out of a bowl. I've not had to pick it out of something disgusting, which is nice.
And remove the other things that are currently eating it from it.
Yeah, and remove the rat. Yeah. And then eat the rat.
And the slugs. Hey, free meat dish.
Brian's going to just pick up a floppy bit of seaweed and it's like, it's not as fresh as when I pick it myself. And then just pop it in. She's just using her fingers.
So I don't know. I think that Manistrad believes. Has anyone else mentioned that there are undead in the mines, or is it just Manistrad that's mentioned it?
It's the first you've heard of it.
But it was mentioned in the council chambers that something had been happening up at the mines.
Okay, so there's an event happening at the mines, and Manistrad's basically sort of told us it's undead in the mines.
Yeah,
so
we may know more than the rest of the council at this point.
I think there is a thing happening, but I don't think it's. I don't know. It doesn't taste right that it's the lizard folk doing this, because it seems a bit sneaky and backhanded. And if they are involved, I almost feel like it's an accident. Does that make sense? Like maybe someone used the wrong spell or messed around with the wrong object, and this has caused this problem. But if it's malicious, then we'd need to report that to the council. But it just doesn't. It doesn't sit right that it's the lizard folk maliciously doing this.
The timing's awfully convenient.
Well, yeah.
What if it's the Sahuagin?
Could be.
Don't know much about what they're capable of, or that level of planning, but...
Does Sahuagin know magic? I'm asking this as a general question to the rest of the party, if anybody knows more history on Sahuagin.
I look at Brian, because this sounds like a Water Genasi area
this
of
sounds
knowledge.
Like a Brian question.
What was the question? Sorry, I was looking back over my notes for a bit of information that I had popped into my head. Sorry, what was
Sahuagin are pretty fierce warriors, but do they know magic? Could they be capable of this if they've got more drive and power behind them? Could they do something like this?
Do I know if they could do something like this?
I'll give you as much what you would know just sort of off the top of your head type of thing, and then if you want to do more, we'll have you do a check. At the very least, you would know that the Sahuagin have never been mighty, sorcerers, necromancers, things like that, because they've been involved more with just sort of simple raids. Could they ally with a local necromancer to cause trouble for? Yeah, that seems reasonable. But would they be in the business of doing this all on their own? No. But then the Sahuagin have never been the type to sort of coalesce into an invading army either, until whatever it is that's going on right now. So these Sahuagin are not acting the way Sahuagin normally act, I guess, is the way to put that.
Okay. Obviously, I'm going to relay this information, but I'm going to ponder as to whether there are any kind of, because when we had the conversation with the lizard folk, they did mention some other races that had aligned with them. Do I know if any of those are have the potential of necromancers amongst their ranks? Does that make sense? Sorry,
yes, it does. And the answer is not necessarily of the groups that you've heard that might be allied with them to this point, or that could be connected to them. but presumably a force that could unify the Sahugin would have to do so using either not magical means, by which I don't mean like that they're mind controlling them, but just that they would have to have something that could impress the Sahugin enough or cow them enough to come on board. And it's hard to imagine that just physical strength would do that. So you don't know of anything specific in terms of the other creatures that they might be allying with that could cause this. But is it likely that whoever is in charge has either access to magic or is magical themselves? That's not a bad guess under the circumstances, because it's hard to see the Sahugin, like I say, falling in line just because someone's physically intimidating.
I don't know of any, but it is not beyond the realms of possibility. I don't believe they have any necromancers amongst their ranks themselves, but they could easily ally with others that have.
So it could be anyone.
It could be anyone.
Yeah.
Basically, this all boils down to we don't know anything.
Yeah. Well, what we do know is there's peril close to home. And I'm looking over at Morthwell specifically. I'm like, do we check this out first?
What if they don't stay confining themselves to little day trips or night trips down the mine?
Yeah. If there's lots of them, or there's suddenly lots of them, or
we could go have our history lesson. He says, emphasizing it this time. And then we come back and the town's overrun with undead.
Yeah. No one's in peril at the history lesson that we know of, anyway. You know, that's a thing that's probably not going to go anywhere anytime soon. That we're aware of, but this feels a bit, I don't know.
Doesn't sound like it's all that much common knowledge either at this point, so we may end up in a race later on, but...
Yeah, these mines aren't a million miles away from people we care about, so I think I would vote for going after the mines first.
What about Sambalet?
Hey, that name was springing to mind a little bit.
We know he was close by. We know he is powerful. We know...
Right, quick question about wizards, right? Because he's a wizard, right? Can wizards do magic without their spellbook?
I don't know, I'm not a wizard.
Oh, damn it.
I don't either.
Everyone keeps saying that. Although it is only you three I ask. Because I'm pretty certain I've got his spellbook.
Question. When we went to the... What's that?
Yep, I'm pretty sure you do.
Yeah.
You might want to stick that in the bag of holding. You know?
Yeah, probably, to be honest with you. Yeah, no, Waves and Brian don't actually know about this, do they? Because I've only shown Morthwell.
It's not cropped up for so long.
It's not at all. I'm like, I definitely, one of the things I took from the mansion was a dusty old book with some magical writing in it. And
some very definitely evil-looking pages towards the end.
Oh, yeah, super gnarly-looking pages at the back with some really weird words on it that I can pick out a couple, but the rest just make my brain itch.
Was it Abyssal? Do you know Abyssal or something like that?
It's deep speech. Of course it is. The realm of madness. So it was deep speech. So some characters of deep speech I could pick out that said something about existence. That's all I could pick out. But the rest of the book, very, very in a different handwriting, different style, everything, very much looks like Sambalet's spellbook. So I'm just wondering if Sambalet is really that much of a threat anymore, considering I have his spellbook.
Okay, in this moment, Waves definitely wants to rack her brain whether she knows if wizards can do magic without their spellbooks. Because I think she at least has heard that spellbooks are important.
Let me have you make an Arcana check.
I was going to say, could I as well, given that I am an artificer who does magic-y things? Sure. And a lot of my training is in how to copy magics through mechanical means. 19.
Although I'm getting this image from Army of Darkness, where you're just sort of like, to use the Necronomicon, you know, like just like, well, maybe I didn't say all the words in the exact right order, but I basically said them. Yeah. You know.
I don't read the words. I build something that acts as if I did it correctly.
Exactly. Okay. So let's see. I need to pull up my other. There we go. Right. So we have got a 2 for waves. So you're just kind of like, spell books. You've heard of spell books, and there are wizards and spell books that work.
Wizards kill people with their minds.
Yeah, spell books are.
Yeah.
You have no idea.
Well, at least I know that spell books are important for wizards.
They
I know
are important.
that much.
Yes. Morthwill, your understanding of this is that yes, spell books are obviously important for wizards, but technically, first of all, they don't need to have them to cast the spell. They need to have them to remember when they need the spells back, right? So the way it works is you study a spell. If you're a wizard, not a sorcerer, but if you're a wizard, you study a spell, you learn it, and then when you cast it, the memory of that spell and how to cast it is gone from your brain, and you have to study it again so that you can learn how to cast it again. The sorcerer does not need to do that. Their training is innate. The cleric prays for theirs. The druid sort of intuits with nature around them and so on. But creatures who use spell books, once that's gone, then they need to rest a certain amount of time to be able to get those spells back. However, that doesn't mean that if they've got a certain number of spells ready, they can't use them later, and then that would just mean they'd need to figure out another way to learn them again. And secondly, generally, powerful wizards have more than one spell book for precisely this reason, because,
Even gets.
Yeah. They have the, the Where's My Phone app. They've got the Where's My Spellbook app right there.
I think he did something along those lines way back.
Mm-hmm. More or less.
Hence the bag of holding. It's like, where's my spell book? Oh, it's in this pocket dimension. Ah, bugger.
Exactly, yes. It's in the bag of badgers. Well.
Go on, Captain.
In you go.
That's why I put something I wanted to protect.
Yeah.
So now that I know that Silvo has apparently stolen Sanballet's spell book, I look towards Silvo and tap his chest and say,
Evil round every corner. Careful not to step in any.
That is an excellent line to live by.
And chat, take a look at that link that Mike just put, by the way, because Mike did some work on this from before that I've seen. And you can see for yourself what one of the pages looks like.
So. Oh, look, it's got some of his blood on it.
Yeah, well, it's someone's blood. I don't know.
Probably yours, let's be fair.
Possibly. That was a good interpretation of what the final page in the spellbook looks like. And there's some words there that Silver can pick out, but the rest of them just make his sort of mind itch a little bit. And everyone he's shown it to, being Morthwill, is just like, nope, can't read a word. So he's like, but I can read it.
Might want to not flash that around.
Yeah, that's just exactly. I'm pretty sure that's exactly what
I think I remember I went on a whole spiel about why you shouldn't just randomly start reading out loud from the book.
Yes, don't read weird words that make people's brain explode from a book. So that's the gnarly looking back page of Sambalet's spellbook. But Waze is right. Evil is around every corner, so maybe once we get back to the room, I'll stick that in your bag of holding, if that's all right. And hopefully, I'm guessing that's not. I don't know how the bag works. You said it's a pocket dimension. I'm assuming it's not here.
It creates a space of somewhere else that can hold a lot more than the inside of the bag.
Okay, so
I didn't come up with the idea. I just copied it. I mean, came up with my own original twist on it.
Yeah. So I think at best is what I've done is I've reasonably inconvenienced Sambalet.
I think so. Yes.
Yeah, I think that's.
He may have spare copies or other means to recover when he needs to.
Yeah.
If he's smart, anyway.
It could be him, but I don't know. I think, given recent events, I'm. Not excited to see Sambalet again, but I think it would be a different outcome if we saw him.
We might be able to set him on fire this time.
I was just going to give him a big hug and jump down the nearest bottomless pit and see who survived.
We can stuff him in the bag of holding.
That's shit, all the bag of badges.
We've been desperate to stuff someone in the bag of holding. Maybe this is the time.
At this point, the entree comes out, which is there are two options. One option is a kind of steak, like a beef type of option, and lightly seared steak. And another is a kind of grilled and specially spiced in sauce chicken. And you notice that when that's brought out, He brings it out and he's kind of like, and then there is and then his eyes fall on Waves. He's like, well, we have steak here, and brings forth, the other option and kind of shifts the other plate slightly behind him. He says, this is probably the one that you might prefer, or we could.
Waves cruelly makes some quiet chicken noises.
He looks exceedingly uncomfortable.
Well, maybe he leaves soon because Waves is stressed because we apparently stole from Sembalet, who was trying to kill us and was really good at it.
Well,
I mean, that was a
to
while.
be fair, that was a
while
really
ago.
long time ago, and we're not dead
That was
yet.
at least 10 days ago. So.
Yeah.
And what, 7 KOs?
Yeah.
Waves looks stressed at all of you and says,
Perhaps things are not as bad as they seem.
Brian says, I
That's
think
the
they
spirit.
might be, but the steak is really good.
Evil is best faced on a full stomach.
So this probably isn't something we want to think about, but I need to let you guys know that something happened to me last time I passed out in the swamp. I can save this for another time if we want to just sit and enjoy our meal.
Was that the
But
thing with trying to get the sword out to the bottom of the lake?
Yes. There's a very shiny sword. I look over to Brian and Waves. There's a very shiny sword at the bottom of that crocodile's pit, and I tried to get it, and I may have ingested a bit too much poison water.
I'm pretty sure you drowned a little bit, yes.
You're not wrong. So, do we...
I remember I was trying
Remind
to cut
yourself
the head
that
off a
overconfidence is a slow and insidious killer.
Overconfidence is a slow and insidious killer, but in this regard, it was a very quick and indiscriminate murderer. So I reached for this sword, and I was not in that place anymore. There's something that happens to me when I kind of pass out, and I'm not 100% sure what it is. For the longest time, I thought maybe I just, fell unconscious, or maybe I don't know, maybe I was dreaming or something, but there's always been like the weird shapes and sounds and whispers, and then all of a sudden I'm back, and my arm itches a bit, and that tattoo starts to move, and I don't know. This time was different though. So when we were in the mansion, the spooky haunted mansion with Sambalat, which is what has just reminded me, I was hit with something and fell down, and everyone freaked out, and I look over at Waves. You tried to murder me. Probably quite rightly so, given what you guys have explained what happened to me. To me, I just got hit with something and fell over because I was kind of just out for a few seconds. But this time was completely different. So I woke up somewhere else. And I mean, I was there. Like, I've had dreams before, but this was real. I was there. I could feel the breeze. I could feel the slate floor under my feet, and it was just this weird landscape of just kind of dark rock and stars on the horizon. And it was weird. I was there for ages, and I ended up going around looking for anything, and I was shouting your names, and I didn't know if I had fallen in something through the crocodile's lair or something like that. I wasn't 100% sure. Something weird happened when I sensed I wasn't alone anymore, and I hid behind a rock, and I didn't hear it, I felt it. I knew a creature was near me. This very tall, thin creature was near me. But didn't know where I was, but I could feel somehow that it was near me, and it kind of left. I must have hid behind this rock for about an hour, trying to just pluck up the confidence to move again, and I did, and I went in the opposite direction from where I came. Basically, I wanted to be as far away from it as possible, and I found a weird cave, like a mouth of a cave almost. And I was walking past it, and someone spoke to me, and I turned around, and it was Hannah, but it wasn't Hannah. And then it was Morthwill, but it wasn't Morthwill. And then it was Waves, and then it was Brian, and then it was my dad, and it was all these people, but it wasn't all of these people. And this person introduced himself as Udin, and they said, it's really hard to explain, but they basically said that the place I was at was the end of the road for people like us. Not any silver gestures to the table, not us, but us. And he said that mages get magic from certain places. Wizards get it from books, and priests get it from gods and deities, and, you know, druids get it from nature. And they sort of explained that people like us normally get it from bloodlines, but it's a bit twisted and it's a bit off. And there was a weird moment where I kind of felt like they can see what I was thinking, and they knew in that moment every single thing about me. And there's this weird look of pity in their eyes, because they didn't realise that I'd been there before but had gone back. And I try to explain that I pass out sometimes, or I get very heavily injured, and this weird tattoo sort of brings me back. But the tattoo wasn't there, like on my arm. It wasn't there at all when I was here, when I was in that place. This person explained that someone tethered me somewhere to here, this plane. And Silvo's mentioning the table again, and he starts to move his food around, right? And he's like, he moves Morthwill's plate closer, and he moves his plate closer to Morthwill's. It's like we're here, and he's sort of moving his food around on his plate. No, it's fine. We're here, and I was here, and he points over to Morthwill's plate. He's like, but Summit is pulling me back to here when I should end up there on Morthwill's plate. But I just, through my own recklessness, I'm ending up there prematurely, but something's pinging me back. And it was, I don't know, there was a weird moment where this person was trying to explain what was going on, that normally people like us, he said, they end up there because these creatures tether them there to this weird other world. Not this material plane, but this weird other world. But because of this tattoo, I'm pinging backwards and forwards, and they don't like that. They're not a fan of this. This isn't how their order works. And there was a minute when this Udin person was explaining that there's a power that is associated with this tethering, and they explained how it works and how it can be controlled. And I don't know how to use it. I don't know how to use what's going on with me. But they said that if I don't, then something. Whenever Silver sort of loses his train of thought at the minute, it's like, do you remember the weasels? Do you remember when I got bit by the weasel and the whole tentacle thing happened? So that's my magic. And he's saying that with a really sort of soft voice. My sort of magic defending me, but without me knowing it. But it's growing in power, but I'm not growing in confidence and control. So when it needs to do something, it does something, but I'm not always in control of it. It's like when we were in the council last time, or the time before. I could hear everyone's thoughts. That's part of this, but I didn't know what it was. And I'm pretty sure that's how this person knew about all of you, and about Hannah, and about my dad, and about everyone. They could just, they had control over it. And I didn't believe them, and I wanted to leave. But they said that there was a moment when they showed me what this thing looked like, and on the distance there was a ghostly figure just staring at me. And I knew that this figure was this power that I had. And I was terrified of it because I have no control over it whatsoever. And in that moment, I didn't know what it might do to me. So this guy calmed me down. And it felt like I was there for hours. I must have been there for at least 7 or 8 hours, this entire thing. And I meditated, and I did some breathing exercises just to calm me down. And eventually I felt like I was a bit closer to understanding some of it, but still very far away. It's like seeing a shiny sword at the bottom of a poisonous lake. I could see it, and I could touch it, but there was a lot of pain and discomfort to get it where I needed it to be. And then I started to smell swamp water, and this person said that that's the tether pinging me back. And I might remember some of this, and I might not. But I wrote it down. I remember asking Morthwill, and I remember remembering. So I wrote it down, and I sketched what this person looked like, and I sketched what this creature looked like, and I tried my hardest to remember as much as I could. So there's a bit of me that I think I can ask. It's almost like a parasite, right? Let's think of it like a worm, okay? I can ask for magic, and it might work. Like, quick note, is there anybody else in the dining room other than us? No, okay.
No, not at the moment.
Cool.
Maelstrom left about 5-10 minutes ago.
So,
although you notice that Larkus has come back and is like kind of peering to see if any of you are finished with your entrees, and notices you kind of very earnestly like mapping out something on your plate.
So, I've never been in control of this, as you are all aware. But now, and Silver sort of like rolls up his dress sleeve, and he goes, if I think about it, and you see like a shimmer go over his arm, and mage armor is cast automatically upon him. This links into the Eldritch Adept feat that I took at level 4, which means that I can now cast mage armor at will for free, basically. I think I can do some stuff. I'm just not there yet. So I'm really keen. If Sambala is behind this, I am really keen to figure out what I can or cannot do. Because for the longest time, I've wanted to take some sweet revenge against him.
I think it might be worth finding out what you can do before we face Sambalat, if that is who is behind this. Is there any way we can help you train?
I don't know. I've never trained this before. I like you guys. I don't want to hurt you. So I don't want to be like, oh, I'll do something simple, and I don't want to. I'm still scared of it. It's like having the sharpest knife in the world, but you don't know how to handle it.
Waves looks at Silvo and says,
Whoa.
Right. This is all pretty heavy for me too. And I don't know. I only knew this wasn't normal when this happened. For the longest time, I've thought this is just something that happens. Like, not, people get hurt and they come back, or they die and they come back, but this sort of, I don't know, this whole situation, I've just thought it was normal, because no one taught me different. The minute these powers started to manifest when I was younger, I was kicked out. I was asked to leave Seaton, and that's why I came to Saltmarsh. I basically came here to try and find someone to fix me and take this away, and so I could go home. And I don't think that's going to happen. But if it can't, then I want to use this for some. God, this sounds cheesy. I want to use this for something good. I don't want to be remembered as a street rat. I want to help people and do the right thing.
Waves gets up, goes around the table, and pats Silvo on the shoulder as she has done already many, many times in this campaign.
There's a moment. Silvo's head just sort of goes onto Waves. Waves just like he just accepts this.
Yeah,
And then she
looks
looks at Silvo and says,
Oh, I'm getting a little sleepy.
and like tries to pull him to the room because she doesn't think that this is sitting in the dining room is where he needs to be right now.
What were you going to say, Morthwell?
I don't really know what's going on with your magic and trying to control it, but trying to fix something, that I understand.
God, honestly, I thought for a very long time, for at least probably until I met you lot, that this was like magical food poisoning, right? It just happened every now and then, but I might be able to have it taken away from me, or it was, I don't know, maybe there was a lump or a growth or something that I could just have, it's your hand that's causing it. Lop your hand off, you'll be fine. And I was just trying to scrape enough money together to see someone. And I know there's a wizard in town, or there's someone in town that knows magical abilities. I just never had enough money to do it, and now I've probably got it. I don't know if that's the right person to go to anymore. I don't want to just sort of bring the mood down any more than I probably already have. I want you guys to finish the food that you want. I'm probably going to head back to the room for a bit, if that's okay.
Desserts come in at this point, by the way. There is choices of pie, cake, multiple kinds of cake, chocolate cream pie, clearly the greatest of all pies. That's just me. Apple pie, blueberry pie. There seems to be a number of these cakes. There might be some kind of a carrot cake, perhaps, and some other mixes, perhaps a cheese cake. There are also what looks like kind of a creme brulee, like a flan. There's a lot.
Is there anything handheld, like so that Silver could just sort of like pick up and be like, I'm also definitely going to take this with me.
There's probably like a dessert. You could take a piece of the cake. One of the.
We could just put it on a plate and get it upstairs.
You could just like grab it with you and walk out with you holding it in your hand.
Waves wants to get to the bedroom, so she is putting some cake on her plate and then proceeds walking out of the door with the plate and the cake.
I'll walk with Waves. I don't want to force people to finish what they're doing if Brian and Morthwell want to stay here for a bit.
Waves is completely willing to share the cake.
Brian is putting lots of different pieces of cake onto one plate, maybe piling a piece of cheesecake on top of that, and then doing the same thing with the second plate, and then carrying 2 plates and like just following on.
These are like also really fancy china, to be clear. Like they're really, really nice china, like thin plates that you're just kind of like carrying out.
We're just buffeting it. We're just just stack as much as we can on.
And he just watches as you pass, and he's like, "Yes, we'll take care of those in the morning," as he sees you go by.
What was actually going to stay? He says the leave. He says, "I'll catch you up. I want to stay and organize my thoughts in quiet for a bit."
Silver just nods to Morthwell.
Okay, so the 3 of you are going back. Morthwell, you're staying?
Yeah, he'll come up in a bit, but he's just reflecting and mulling over things with a bit of quiet.
All right. So I would say if there's anything else people need to talk to each other about, they can. Otherwise, I would say you have a chance to rest this evening in what was aforementioned the softest of all beds. Like it is like super comfortable, like sleeping on a cloud. I suppose if any of you feel like, but no, I don't like that. I prefer to be sleeping on a concrete slab. That can be arranged, but I don't know about you, but I'm always just like, they're like, this is better for your back. This is better for it. But can I really just sleep in a cloud? Like, I really would prefer to just do that. So anyway, this is very soft, very comfortable, very warm, and very quiet. That nobody comes to disturb you or bother you until the...
There is one thing that I was just before going to sleep.
Yeah.
Silver wants to look at his little scrying stone again.
Yes. When you look at the scrying stone, you don't get... You don't see anything in particular, Silvo. In fact, it looks a little bit like trying to make out something through mist. That is to say that it's you don't see anything obvious coming to you, and if anything, it feels a little clouded. I don't know that it's physically clouded, but it feels a little bit internally like you're not really seeing what you're looking at completely.
Okay. So he makes a very brief note in his journal and then puts it away.
After bedtime, though, when you wake up in the morning to a mighty twitter in the branches of the trees that are not far, outside your windows, and you are brought actually breakfast in bed. And at first you were all like, oh yeah, this is spectacular. And then you wonder whether part of the reason for this might not be because it looks a little bit more like it's improvised. And you wonder if this is kind of like, we'll bring the breakfast to them so that they don't break up our dining room by like taking stuff from us maybe or something like that. But there are pancakes, waffles, French toast, scrambled eggs Benedict. Like you just run down the line: bacon, sausage, sizzling bacon, crispy bacon, as it should be eaten in accordance with the prophecy. And all that sort of stuff. Like there is a lightly seared potato mixture that comes on the side, and all this kind of stuff, and also various kinds of juices that you feel free to have. It's pretty awesome. And when all that is done, your now dear friend, he said ironically, but he comes, your innkeeper comes back to you and says, Lankus Kurid, and says, whenever you are ready, I will be happy to lead you outside. And I hope that in all of these cases you will be willing to, I hope that you had a pleasant evening, a pleasant bath, and that the meals met with your approval.
Yes.
Did we get our clothes back?
Did you get your what?
Our clothes.
Yes, they are holding. He is actually holding several packets, and when he sort of hands them over, you can see that they are all the cleaned and actually pressed packets. So clothes that you already had. So you notice that the creases have been restored to the degree they can be. The hats have been restored, and the whole bit. Like everything kind of looks the way it's intends to be when you first got it. God knows how long ago.
Would you look at that? I was convinced the stains were the only things holding them together.
So he then leads you out, and he says, please make sure, how convincing he is in saying this, I don't know. Please return to the Wicker Goat in the future, and we will be happy to welcome you. And yes.
Tip him a gold piece as we're leaving.
And he looks at it and he says, well, thank you. I am most appreciative, and I'm sure that the staff of the Wicker Goat will be as well.
Thank you kindly. We had a very, very relaxing evening, which was much needed by all of us.
He nods. He says, excellent. May your adventures be profitable and your further circumstances as normal as you wish them to be, he says rather awkwardly. And then kind of like, farewell for now. And he kind of backs up. and the door to the wicker goat closes. Now, question for
Probably
the
overheard a few random snippets coming and going, which give him a very odd impression of the ordeal.
Yeah. I'll admit that part of this I was thinking about was the fact that earlier today on my own channel while I was streaming, there was a guy putting blinds up here in my office, as I mentioned, to kind of keep the bright sun out. And it was while I was also trying to voice the murder of Sonic the Hedgehog. And I'm here to tell you that when I was like, all right, so he's up there on the ladder, like, you know, hammering away. And I'm just like, well, Sonic, because I'm trying to do Tails' voice. And I'm just like, great. He's like, I thought he's like, you're a college professor and author, like, and other things. All right. So anyway, I was imagining what that might have felt a little bit like. So the decision that has to be made now with the players, of course, is I know you had Craig that you wanted to go to, but what plans are you making in terms of where you're headed since you have now reached the morning time? You have to decide where you're going to go.
Well, I think Craig's not off the table, but I think we'd all agreed Mine's investigation seems to be the consensus.
So, Waze will get dressed and will take out something that looks like a hair straightening iron, but in cold, and will straighten out her freshly washed feather, and then she's willing to just follow along because she now got the thing that she wanted.
Wait, Waves has a feather press?
Yeah, well, preening with your beak is just barbaric, so yes.
That's brilliant, I love it.
Only preen with her beak when she absolutely has to.
Yes, she would do that, like you would brush your hair with your fingers if you had to. But so she got what she wanted. She wanted a really good bath. She got what she wanted. She's now willing to just follow along.
Okay.
Okay. Silver's very quiet this morning, but following along.
All right. Well, if that's the party's consensus, then I will bring you back to this map.
Yeah.
Go ahead, Mosul.
I was just going to check because I think Brian wanted to see Crab, wasn't it, Brian, specifically?
I did, but I wanted to see him specifically before we went to Mysterious Ghost Ship. If we're not doing that straight away, then that can wait.
All right.
So if that's the case, then I will. Now you can go whatever you want. I'm just going to let you know where. I'm not even going to trace the path. I'm just going to let you know that this mine is probably somewhere up here in. Hold on a second. I'll bring you all there. In this rough vicinity, as I have to again pull up the other one for people. Okay, let me do that again. So right there, which is to the north of Saltmarsh. You are all at the moment down here, so you can trace whatever path you like to get through to where this mine, where the dwarven mine would technically be found. So, and I'm only asking that because I guess the question is if you're going through the center of town or if you're trying to stay somewhere kind of like outside of the outskirts. I guess you could even take a boat up there theoretically. But yeah, I was just wondering what path you wanted, roughly speaking, you wanted to take up there.
Yeah. Hang on, where's my line tool? Freehand, there we go. So I was thinking, which hurt, this path, just around the outskirts of town, like this. Oh, look at that freehand.
It's not done yet. I don't see it yet.
I'll probably do it when I let go. But yeah, sort of that
there
path.
It is. Wow, that's freehand. Whoa.
I know, right? That's like snaps of road.
Dang, wow, that's impressive. Yeah, look at
Marvel it well, folks. It will never go that smoothly again.
So, like, yeah, there you go.
Yeah, it looks good to me. Minus the slight nausea over the bridge, but I'm good with that. I'm used to that by now.
Mm-hmm. So,
I
yes.
get confused with weird bridges in our campaigns. I was like, is this the one with the fish attackers? No, that was
Nope. That was Storm King's Thunder.
Yeah.
I have to say, by the way, I saw the Honor Among Thieves D&D movie, which is excellent, by the way.
I need to see that.
There are all these references. You should all see it because there are all these references to like. There's a Storm King's Thunder reference, and I set something there, and they make reference to Tribor. In fact, they go to Tribor and all this stuff. So like, there are all these things that I was just like, yep, I started one with that. I did one with that. That enemy was in my campaign once. Blah blah blah. It was very good. A lot of joy. It was nice to see
Nice.
an actual good D&D movie for a change. So
Looking
it's good
forward
stuff.
to it.
Yeah, it's very good. So anyway, so the party could make its way up this way. And if you want to, so you basically want to take the path all the way, if you're following that all the way up to the mine, is that?
That's
Is
what
that
I was thinking. You
fair?
skirt around the outskirts of town, stick to the
Yep, thought so.
paths. I mean, I assume the mine isn't down at water level because that would be a very silly place to have a mine entrance. Although maybe some sort of supply entrance.
That could very well, that's right. And you have not been to it yourself, although you've heard of, people building it and stuff like that, Morthwell, for sure.
But I have some certain dwarven sensibilities about how a mine should be laid out, especially if you're near to water.
Absolutely. Yep.
Not at all because of several traumatic dwarf fortress incidents.
None of those ever happen. Okay, so if you're going up that way, then what I will do is I will just set us up to that spot in the mine. When you can all move your tokens to about here-ish. When you get up to, there we go. When you get up to that spot, you can see that there is a broad shaft that has been. At first, you don't know what you're looking at. It looks like it almost might be some kind of a tower. And you remember that when you went up this way before, your attention was really focused on the house that you were heading to up to the left, up a hill, basically to the western side. But to this side of things, there is what looks like at first like a stone tower. But then you note that really what you're looking at is apparently walls with two guard towers that are overlooking this main gate, and then three other towers spaced around the perimeter of something. And you're not 100% sure what the something is, but this is the location of where you were told the mine can actually be found. And maybe this is why you didn't notice a mine per se or the mine shaft before, because it must be inside these walls. But it definitely is not like just some random open hole in a hill someplace. It's actually guarded, because as you come close, you can see that there are two what look like they might be, I wouldn't say dwarven guard. They're not like in full out armor, but they are carrying weapons. They do have at least chain kind of tunics and helmets. And as they see you getting close, one of them kind of is like, "Hey, what's your business here?"
Easy there, fellas. We're here at an official invitation by Manistrad Copperlocks herself. Here's a letter of introduction. I hand that over.
And they kind of look at it, look at you, and then pull open the scroll case and open the letter and roll it out, and they say, yeah, Manistrad said you might be coming by. I don't know what you're going to find that we haven't been able to discover, but if she thought the four of you lot were likely to discover something, you're welcome to check things out if you like. Just through that gate, mind. You can go in there, and there'll be a set of stairs that descend along the walls. Just make sure you take it easy. It can be, for new people, it can be a little dizzying. And they kind of, and the other guy chuckles as well.
Just a quick question, if I might.
Aye?
So when these attacks are happening, where do they usually come from? Are they coming at the gates here, or is it from another location?
Well, that's the thing. No one really has seen them come exactly, except one. Well, there's one, Esper down there, and he kind of points at... There are a few dwarves that you can see within, kind of milling about within the gate, which is I should say barred, so it's not like a stone, wooden door or anything. It's like iron bars. And he says, he said that one night, he was there standing on guard looking out towards the sea. And that's when he saw them. And the other guard says, I still think he doesn't understand anything. He was probably just drunk. And the guard you were talking to says, well, that's as may be. But all I know is, when I saw him next, his face looked as white as a sheet. He said that he'd been looking at the guard tower and heard sounds from behind him in the ocean. Turns around and looks out. And there, walking from out of the sea, He sees zombies and skeletons, clothes hanging off their bones. Right from the ocean they came, he said. No one else has ever seen that. But he swears to this day it's true. And we found them in the mine right enough. Usually it's one or two of them and we can handle them. But there's been more lately. And every one of them, their clothes damp or dripping wet.
I see. Thank you.
And they allow you to go by, and when you they raise the gate. And when you come in, you can see the walls are surrounding a very deep and wide mining shaft that has been plunged straight down into the side of this cliffside, really, or hill. So you're right that it doesn't open into the ocean, but it's pretty close, actually, and goes straight down. And there are stairs climbing down the inside of this thing, spiral stairs. And as you look down, it is a pretty dizzying height. And from down below, you hear the whistling of wind and a cold dampness flowing from the bottom. And one of the guards, I'd say the camera pans back to show one of the guards looking at you as you go in, and then glancing at his companion and saying, "You think they'll find anything? Who knows? If they don't, perhaps they can tell us why we're here. But I'm telling you, I saw his face. His mind's haunted, and the things haunting him, they're coming from the sea." The other one spits, and we bring our session to a close. Well, I did not know that we were going to be going to a mine first or as part of it, but I am very happy that the party has gone its own way, and we're going to see what happens when we go into maybe a haunted mine. I'm sure it'll be no problem. I can't imagine that there would be any issues associated with with this at all. I'm sure it'll be just fine.
At least the which we left our cleric in our other campaign.
Yes, exactly. No,
That's okay. We know what to do here, Mr. Saber. You get the EMF, I'll get the thermogun, and we'll try and find the cold spots in the mine.
Exactly.
Yes.
Or just nuke it from orbit. It's the only way to be sure. But it was great fun, as always, to get back into this. And as we're making progress along with discovering all these different sort of political different aspects that exist, I am excited to see more of that. I will start with Inanda. It was good to see sort of Brian associated with this. I also loved the spread eagle backflip into the bed. It was a nice way to get things started. So that was always good. But also decisions, of course, that have to be made about the party has to balance out decisions about what is a side quest, what isn't a side quest, what thing sort of contributes to the whole, what's the more triage, like, right? What do you have to deal with first? So I was interested to see how Brian felt about that, and Brian ended up going along, I think, mostly with a consensus. How did you feel about today's session? Where will the fine folks find you next?
I always have an absolute blast with you guys and playing D&D, and because Brian's a little bit uncouth. She's grown up on a pirate ship. She's not used to like thread count sheets and which knife to use during entrees. But yeah, it was a fantastic session. I think that given the choices that we had today, I think going and doing this quest with the mines is not obviously more important than going and finding the secret weapon. However, from a standpoint of securing the safety of the council, I think that the safety of the mines could be a tipping point as to the balance of power in the town. So I think it is possibly long-term, potentially even more important. But yeah, I always have a blast. Where you'll find me shortly chasing after a puppy who I took out for a wee. She doesn't want to go back in her pen. So I will be disappearing off very shortly. But I'll be over on my own channel for the rest of the week. I'm going to be playing Sherlock Holmes The Awakening on Saturday over here on GOG. I was supposed to play it Saturday just gone, but puppy jumped off the sofa and hurt her paw. So yeah, for freedom. But yeah, no, I had an absolute blast. So thank you again, and we're gonna go and have a look down them there mines next time.
See, they call it a mine. A mine. Always a pleasure, Nana. Thank you. Moving right up the line, Mike, Silvo. First of all, also you know part of the same mix with everybody else, sort of enjoying the bath and everything else. But obviously, some very nice moments there, getting backstory. And I loved the reveal of the I have Sanballat's spell book, and like waves in and on to being like Brian being like, I'm sorry, like you have what now? Like, and you know now you've got that other thing that's sort of in the back of your mind about like what. Wait a minute, like so we have a wizard spell book. That's not. Is that good? You know. So we had that, and the other part of the backstory about things that happened when you went down to the bottom of the lake, and all these things that are tying into aspects of Silvo's backstory and what may or may not be an issue for Silvo going forward. And obviously, Silvo's in a much better position to talk to the characters about this now than would have been the case, 6 months ago. So this is also part of Silvo's gradually increasing confidence in his party mates here. How did you feel about today's session? Where will the fine folks find you next?
As always, I absolutely adored this session. It's a weird one trying to roleplay Silvo sometimes because I want to play him as this sort of immature, angsty kind of 20-something elf that just sort of wants to be like, no, fight the power, man. But also he's been through some serious horrible traumas and he will continue to go through that in an adventuring lifestyle. And there are sections where he kind of matures very, very quickly. As anyone who's been through any trauma knows, it matures you. Everyone says you're old for your age if you've been through, horrible life things. But it is that sort of that moment where he realizes, actually, I don't think this lot are going to try and stab me in the back and throw me in a river. Who knew? It's that realization of, actually, I think these people are actually quite nice people, and I can probably give them a bit of information about myself that I want to give out from Silvo's perspective, but I don't want to give everything away all at once, if that makes sense. And there is definitely a stronger relationship between Silvo and the rest of the party members, and there is that camaraderie of a thing has happened to Silvo, and everyone's like, that's all right, you'll get through it. Waves is, tapping him on the shoulder, Morthwill's sort of thinking in contemplation about what's happening and all this sort of stuff. And yeah, it feels nice, and it feels nice that he's got a grasp that this isn't some sort of curse that has happened to him. He still doesn't quite get it, but he knows it's not, something that can be taken away and his life is going to go back to normal. But that's going to take a bit of mulling over. He's going to have to sit on that for a while before he really comes to terms with it. So I'm very much looking forward to seeing. Now we've got sort of a bit of self-reflection and realization out of the way. Now he's going to do the sort of hands-on money-making bit that he enjoys, and like, okay, cool, let's go do a thing and get paid for it. Like, this is my jam now. It's not a big sort of political landscape battle or anything like that. It's, let's go clear out some mines of some undead. Let's go do a task, a side quest, if you will. It's not a side quest, but it's a side quest. But yeah, no, I'm really looking forward to playing next time. In regards to where you can see me next, let me just get my calendar. I'm going to be streaming on my own channel this Friday. I'm going to be playing some of the worst games on my Steam list. Won't that be enjoyable? Basically, 10 to 15 years of being a games journalist, you get gifted and given tons of games. Some of them are good, some of them are awful. I have 400 and something games on my list of these are the worst games I've never opened or touched or installed. So I'm just going to pick a random number generator and just start playing them on stream. The week following from that, so come and join in so you don't have to pay for these awful games. The week following that, the 28th, 29th and 30th of this month, I'm actually going to be doing a charity live stream in aid of Mind, the mental health charity in the UK. It's going to be a 15-hour live stream but I'm going to break it over 3 days. So 5 hours on the Friday, 5 hours on the Saturday, 5 hours on the Sunday. All the details are going to be on my Discord very shortly, to raise money for the 1 in 15 people, so 15 hours for the 1 in 15 people who commit suicide, basically. And it's a big mental health advocate. It's something that I want to raise money for, and I'm not doing a charity live stream for a while, so we're going to see how it goes. And that's pretty much it from me.
That's good stuff, Mike, and we will. I'll be looking forward to that. And of course, Mike and this whole crew next month is going to be hopefully a part of ARFCon to raise money for cancer research, and I am very excited about that. It's a big event for me too. So anyway, I approve entirely of your charity and of the thing doing it. So thanks, Mike. Good stuff today. Saber, great stuff as well from Morthwheel. I loved the on the hot tub thing. The beard sight gag was continually funny. And that was the algae thing continued to get me because I'm like, what the hell is he talking about? You're like, algae, but then it's like a beard. I'm like, wait, what? Oh, and then I had the image of so then I got it. I'm like, yes, now I understand. But of course, part of this too is figuring out whether Manistrand is someone that can be trusted. I mean, like, Morthwheel obviously doesn't like the political situation, and everyone's got their own agendas, and that obviously is Morthwheel's least favorite situation to deal with, but like, you have a balance of power problem. You have the traditionalists and royalists and loyalists at each other's throats sometimes. You have Anders, who gave you the sort of quest of, you need to do this, and then you have another quest, but it's coming from a dwarf, and so maybe, but there's anyway, there's a lot of stuff going on there that Morthwheel has to somewhat navigate, and I could sense there was a kind of moral calculus going on in your head about like, well, the undead are sort of, this is a problem that we're going to have to deal with one way or the other. I could easily see you having come to another conclusion, which is like, well, we got to do this so we can fix this overall problem with this invasion. But here you were like, but there's an immediate evil problem that I can deal with as well. And so I could see that kind of moral calculus going on in your mind as you were processing all of this, which, Morthwheel as the dwarf that Manistrad kind of focused a lot of her attention on too, was something that meant Morthwheel had to take the lead slightly on some of this also. How did you feel about today's session? Where will the fine folks find you next?
This was great, even if our relaxing spa session did end up getting political for part of it. But it was fun anyway. It's nice when you get these sessions where everyone's kicking back and it's like we got to see a bit more of a casual, relaxed side of Morthwheel, at least until dinner.
yes.
Which was a lot of fun, like just all the different folks' reactions to getting in the hot tubs and what they're doing and how they're enjoying themselves and sullying up the sheets, and that poor guy, that poor guy. Who both does and doesn't want us to come again at this point.
Right, exactly. Please return soon.
But please return sooner before you're less filthy.
Yeah. That right. Before it gets that bad again. Yeah.
But yeah, just so like you say, there's the two paths. There's the bigger picture, but there's also the immediate threat to people, which is something that in Morthwheel's eyes needs dealing with. But there's also the possibility of giving us more information that can help guide us with the big picture. Because just until we've been told, hey, you need to go here, get the thing and bring it back to me, we might find out something where we find out we either don't want to go there or we don't want to bring that back to them. So there's that side of things as well. So, and this seems to be tying, or at least people believe this is tying into the larger picture. So yeah, well, we won't know until we play Phasmophobia in the Haunted Mines next time.
Which is all it's going to be. Not really D&D. Just everyone plays, that. And that's...
I'll whip up a few different gadgets and we'll just run around trying them out in various places.
I'll be in the van.
Yeah, I was going to say. And I'll be here watching with the sound off, just nodding, sagely.
Are you there? Can you hear me? Are you there?
I'm out.
Yep.
But yeah. So that's next time, which I'm very much looking forward to. Tomorrow, I'm going to be here on the GOG channel. Ooh, excuse me, watery mouth. I'm going to be back here on the GOG channel tomorrow playing some Tropico 4, which is part of the City Builder sale. And, you know me, love me a nice City Builder to chill out with. So looking forward to playing that again. And I'll be back on my channel on Thursday, where I think I'm going to be carrying on with East, the Oath in Falgana, because I've been having a lot of fun with that.
I saw you playing that. I actually played a lot of Ys Origin not that long ago, and so I was hearing some of the music, and I'm like, oh, yep, I recognize that, and then there's that, and then there's that. Yeah, I had never played an Ys game, so good stuff, Saber. Thank you, and again, as always, thanks for Move Out and Dashboard and all that stuff as well. Last but certainly not least, Pyron, great stuff from Waves today. I love the fact that that Waves is very much like, I need a bath. Here's how I get the bath. Again, wonderful stuff with the soundboard as well. And here you had a situation where, you were just like, I wanted a certain kind of a drink and a certain kind of a thing. Like, this is someone taking the spa seriously, basically, right? And so I really enjoyed that. And it meant that Waves, I don't know. I mean, Waves as a paladin probably has some thoughts about dealing with the undead, but it felt like at the moment, a lot of what Waves was focusing on was like, I'm good now because now I've had my bath and I actually feel, well rested and ready to challenge whatever evil things are going to face stuff at that point. So that I thought was very interesting. And it's going to be, to me, curious to see what happens when you get your actual paladin, the one who's closest to dealing with the undead on a regular basis, or at least trained to do it, if they run into undead in this mine. How did you feel about today's session? Where will the fine folks find you next?
I love today's session. I think sometimes you just need a spa day or a shopping tour or something like that.
Yes.
I've got a Shadowrun group who ended up in a discotheque for one evening. It happens. And for Waves, this was about more things than just relaxation. That's the whole spa thing. That's why it was so important to her. But on the other hand, Kenku are these born minions. So now, like, she has done all the leading and focusing for one day. She's now like, okay, gotta follow along now again. There is going to be evil no matter where we go, so that's fine. She's not sure about going into the mine, though, because if the zombies come out of the sea, why are we going into the mine?
Right, that's true.
But
Waves was thinking about, like, I think was voting for the ship, actually, now that I think of it. Yeah. That's true.
No, so she was fine with both. It's like there's both is helpful. Somebody else is going to make a decision. It's going to be fine. She's learning the whole making the decision things, but slowly getting there. Yeah, and otherwise she's still a little bit unsure about what to do about Silver, but apparently patting the shoulder and getting him to bed and getting him good food seems to do the trick, so she's going to continue on that way. And let's see where this goes next time. And I think if I don't find time to stream, which is very, very unlikely currently, in real life, I will be here for our next tabletop RPG session, whatever and whenever it might be.
Good stuff as always.
And of course, ARFCon.
And ARFCon, yes, I'm very excited for that. So thank you to the amazing and wonderful players of GOG as always. Next month, by the way, we will have a return to Talisman Adventures, but also more of Ghosts of Saltmarsh. And we will see what happens in this mine as we continue to progress through this awesome campaign. Jack, can we, as always, get some love for the amazing Pyron Jade, the incredible Darksaber 2K, the astounding Peripheral Mike, and the incomparable Inanda. Thank you to my wonderful players. Great stuff today, players, and I will see you folks soon. Bye for now.
Bye.
And that chat is going to do it for this stream. That's going to do it for me for today. And I did really have a good time, and I'm very excited for more of Ghosts of Saltmarsh as this goes in somewhat of a different direction. Well, I shouldn't say that. I mean, like, I knew there were different options, but it was interesting to me to see which way these folks might go or might not go. And that's the whole idea, is to kind of, go where the party leads you and to see what they want. And it all makes narrative sense. Like, there's no, it's not incoherent. It seems very logical. So I am excited to see how they actually play through things. I'm excited to see how things happen next month. Again, next month we will have a lot of stuff going on, but next week I'm going to be here at a different time. Pen and Pixels is going to be taking place from 12 to 3 p.m. Eastern next week to accommodate my Shire Adventures, which is going to be happening from 4 to 7 p.m. Next week on my channel, followed by the conclusion of Citizen Sleeper, which with my amazing R Vocalist voice team, and that will be happening from 9 to midnight back on my channel. So we've got 12 to 3 here, and then from 4 to 7, and then from 9 to midnight on my channel is what we've got going on, and we'll be doing some Chained Echoes, Pen and Pixels next week. So if you like what you saw and heard, I hope you will follow the channel. I hope you will spread the word about this show and spread the word about the stuff that we're doing here, both in terms of tabletop play and other sorts of things. And I hope you will consider following the channel, subscribing to us here on GOG.com's Twitch channel, and also checking out our individual channels, because we have our own individual Patreons and subsystems and good stuff like that. I believe that we are done for today. Yes, I am wrapping up the evening, it looks like. But tomorrow we've got a busy day, actually. We have got Darksaber coming to you with Tropico 4, as he mentioned. Then we have got Caro 2 with Blood Rain Terminal Cut, and then we've got Dizzy with some more Frostpunk coming up. So that's going to be happening next week. And then, as I said, we have the 12 to 3 next week of Pen and Pixels, Chained Echoes, and stuff like that. I will also mention that I'll be back on my channel on Friday with the conclusion of Inkle's Sorcery 4. And if you've had a chance to see any of the previous Sorcery, these are pretty amazing, actually, games. And so we'll be wrapping that up because the following Friday, I may or may not be playing a Star Wars game that rhymes with Bed-Eye Blurbliver. So that may be happening on the Friday following. So we'll be getting out of the way. And then over the weekend, more tabletop stuff with my Eberron campaign, and the following Saturday with more Expedition from the Mysterious Peaks. So it's all going to be good. But that's it for me. Thank you all for being here. And we will see you folks here, either on my channel later on in the week, or back here at noon Eastern next week for episode 372 of Pen and Pixels and Chained Echoes. More Ghosts of Saltmarsh and Talisman Adventures next month. Until then, everyone, please be good to each other, and everyone have a good night. Bye for now.